Chapter 238, Chapter 238, Can't Let Others Interjectly. Chapter 238, Can't Let Others Interjectly. In the courtyard, Tian followed a group of god kings and started to grind the dust. Only now did he understand that grinding the dust was an extremely difficult task. These are all divine artifacts, top-notch divine artifacts. Tian gripped the shovel as an expression of extreme terror appeared on his face. He looked at the cement and red soil again. It was not simple dust. It was clearly the legendary divine soil. And that red brick. Tian felt that just by staring at that red brick, he could feel a terrifying might that made people shudder. It made him feel as if it was some kind of terrifying divine artifact. He was afraid and did not dare to look directly at it. Hurry up, don't dawdle. Behind Tian, Grand Elder Zhui urged. Yes. Tian hurriedly replied as he quickened his movements. The green-haired turtle didn't dare to move at all in the pool. It shrank into its shell as if it had been petrified. Fatty Rongrong's head was against the wall, reflecting on her mistakes. Monkey scratched his ears and cheeks as he squatted on the bamboo forest, looking around from time to time. The red-tailed bottleneck monkey and the six-eared macaque crouched under the bamboo forest, not daring to approach Wukong. Meanwhile, in the Void Holy Land, Wang Miaoshu was led by Hierarch Yellow Skirt to Wukong Holy Land's sect master Yin Liuli's room. Senior, thank you. After saying that, the yellow-dressed hierarch ran out in a panic. Pa! She could only hear a slight rustling sound as the divine lord in the yellow dress closed the door. Outside, there was even a rustling sound, as if someone was blocking the door. What are they doing? Why are you blocking the door? Wang Miaoshu frowned, his face filled with doubt. Outside the room, the voice of the yellow skirt hierarch rang out. Senior, I'll leave the rest to you. We're retreating. After saying that, Wang Miaoshu heard hurried footsteps. The female cultivators of Wukong sect outside the door seemed to be fleeing. Li Dapu, was there any danger in treating an illness? Wang Miaoshu asked in confusion. Then he looked over at the bed. There seemed to be a graceful figure lying under the thin red muslin curtain. It was probably Holy Lord Yin Liuli of the Void Holy Land. Should I go in, or should you come out? The treatment requires observation, listening, questioning, and feeling. I have to observe for a while before I can prescribe the right medicine for you. Wang Miaoshu said in a deep voice. Come in. I don't want to move. A woman's gentle and graceful voice sounded from within the red muslin tent. All right, 1 foot 11 inches, go in then. Wang Miaoshu nodded. She lifted the red gauze curtain in front of her and walked in. The next moment, he saw Yin Liuli lying on the bed. Yin Liuli's face was flushed red, and her eyes were blurry. Her fair and slender hands were grabbing the red bedsheet beneath her forcefully. You. Wang Miaoshu looked at the scene before him and frowned slightly. He was poisoned. And it was a very powerful joyous union medicine. You're a doctor. Is there any way to cure this poison? Yin Liuli gritted her teeth and circulated the true essence in her body, barely managing to resist. Of course there is a way, but you have to endure it. As Wang Miaoshu said that, she lifted Yin Liuli's blanket. What are you doing? Ah! A loud shout soon came from the room. In the Void Holy Land's main hall, everyone heard Yin Liuli's exclamation and looked worried. Do you think the sect master will be fine? This person is also a poison expert. Sister Huang Chang. One didn't dare to say it before because I couldn't confirm that person's strength. If he was from the Sima clan, wouldn't the sect leader be in danger? A few women from Wukong sect surrounded the yellow-dressed woman with puzzled expressions. Don't worry. His aura has never appeared in the divine realm before. His body carries the aura of the lower realm. Most importantly, I tried to stab his heart with my full strength to test his reaction, but his body was like an iron wall. I couldn't stab it at all. If I'm not mistaken, his strength should be at the God King stage. God Kings don't need to do such sneak attacks. Just kill us directly. Only a divine king realm expert who knows medicine can save the sect master. Huang Shang analyzed, and the elders of the Void Holy Land nodded. In the corner, A woman in an ice blue dress frowned. A black light flew out from the ring on her finger. The Sima clan had already promised her. After sect master Yin Liuli, she would support her to become the next sect master of the Rukong Holy Land. She absolutely wouldn't allow anyone to cure Yin Liuli. The black light also flew out when no one was paying attention. On the other side of the black light was a young man from the Sima clan. "Young master, please spare me. I can't take it anymore." "Sob, sob, sob. Please let me go, young master." A few women screamed in pain. The ground was covered in blood. However, Sima Chang's face was filled with extreme joy. His eyes were filled with greed as he waved the whip in his hand and wantonly whipped these maidservants. "Ha ha ha, bear with it, it'll be fine soon," Sima Chang said pervertedly, his face carrying a crazed expression. It was only until those maids had completely fainted that Sima Chang put down the whip in his hand, his face revealing a disappointed expression. Boring. One reckoned that the Yin-Yang Joyous Unification powder on Yin Liuli's body should be showing its effects now. It's time to take advantage of this. Yin Liuli's taste. TSK, it must be wonderful, Sima Chang said crazily. However, all of a sudden, a black light shone from his ring. "This be *TCH. What is it that you want to bother me with?" Sima Chang said with an impatient tone, his face filled with disdain. To him, that traitor was just a plaything. When the time came, he would casually play with him and throw him away. As for the Void Holy Land, it would naturally be annexed by the Sima clan. This was his ultimate goal. Sima Chang impatiently opened the message, and his face immediately revealed a surprised expression. A godly monarch actually entered Yin Liuli's room. Fuck, it can't be that I didn't set up a trap and let others enjoy the benefits, right? Sima Chang's expression changed. The Yin-Yang Joyous Unification powder had taken effect, so it was now the easiest time for Yin Liuli to break through. If that godly king got there first and interfered, wouldn't he suffer a huge loss? "Steward, lead your men to the Void Holy Land. Now. Immediately," Sima Chang said angrily. He directly turned into a stream of light and instantly disappeared from the spot. Chapter 239, Chapter 239. Sima Chang is furious. _I. Chapter 239. Sima Chang is furious. _I. I wonder how the situation is now. I wonder if the sect leader's poison has been cured. In the hall, the disciples of Rukong's sect looked worried. After all, this poison was not ordinary. It was an extremely shameful thing for the Void Holy Land, which only had female disciples. Wait. We can only wait. Even if something bad happens in the end, it's still better than letting that scum Sima Nan take advantage of the sect leader, Huang Shang said with an anxious expression. It had been a few minutes since Wang Miaoshu had entered the room. Moreover, there were moans coming from the room. No one knew exactly what had happened. "No, I think we should go in and take a look. Even if we don't worry about the sect master's safety, the sect master's innocence can't be destroyed." The woman in the icy blue dress, standing in the corner, was anxious. Just now, Sima Chang had sent her a message. If Yin Liuli wasn't a virgin, then she didn't need to live anymore. Lu Yu. Huang Shang was slightly stunned. Why hadn't Lui been anxious before? Now she suddenly became anxious. Being stared at by Huang Shang, Lu Yi's face revealed an unnatural expression, but she hurriedly hid it and said, "I'm just concerned about the sect leader." After saying that, Lui rushed straight to Yin Liuli's room. "Not good, don't let her do anything. Catch her." Huang Shang was instantly shocked. As if he had understood something, he directly asked the cultivators beside him to grab Lu Yi. Under everyone's joint attack, Louis did not have any strength to resist at all, and was directly imprisoned. "What are you doing?" "I'm just concerned about the sect master." Quote. Louis pretended to be angry. Louis, when I investigated the spy previously, I felt that there was something wrong with you. Why is your ponytail finally showing now?" Huang Shang stared at Louis, a playful expression on his face. Huang Shang, although you are an elder, I am also an elder. When I am not half a level lower than you, What do you mean by this? Lu Yi said coldly. However, the yellow-robed woman did not say anything. She directly slapped the green-robed woman's head, and then searched her soul. Soon after, a scene was directly projected by Huang Shang using the crystal ball. All the female cultivators present saw it clearly. It was the scene of Lu Yi and Sima Chang being entangled together, as well as the scene of Lu Yi sending out a message and secretly colluding with Sima Chang. Lu Yi, you. The female cultivators at the side all blushed and stopped watching the scene on the crystal ball. Lu Yi, what else do you have to say? Huang Shang stared at Lu Yi with a cold gaze, as if he wanted to turn into a sharp sword and pierce through Lu Yi. When Lu Yi saw that her indecent acts had been exposed, her face revealed a hint of embarrassment. However, in the next moment, she became angry out of humiliation. At the same time, a black light lit up on her ring. That proved that Sima Chang had already arrived. Immediately, Lu Yi smiled disdainfully. Then she began to roar. So what? I did all of this, including the fact that the purpose of poisoning the sect leader was to let young Master Sima succeed. You be asterisk cheese in the future. You will only be young Master Sima's playthings. Just wait to be trampled on, ha ha. Lu Yi laughed maniacally. You're courting death. Huang Shang stared at Lu Yi and was about to slap her to death. If such a traitor appeared in the sect, the outcome would be very miserable. Hee hee, you can't kill me. Lu Yi smiled. Following that, a terrifying aura that covered the sky and earth instantly shocked everyone present. What? Everyone immediately felt a mountain-like pressure land heavily on their bodies, making them unable to move at all. Where's Yinliuli? Bring me to her. Sima Chang said coldly, and directly released the restraints on Lu Yi's body. Yes, young Master Sima. The corners of Lu Yi's lips curled up into a crooked smile. Then, she glared fiercely at Huang Shang and the others before rushing towards Yinliuli's room with Sima Chang. Bang! Sima Chang slapped out with his palm. The palm force was vigorous, as if it could pierce through the clouds and split rocks. The door of the room was directly broken open. In an instant, everything inside the door could be seen clearly. You, what did you do? Sima Chang looked at Yinliuli, who was putting on her clothes, and the muscular Wang Miaosho, who was standing at the side. A puzzled expression appeared on his face. Sima Chang. Yinliuli was stunned, and her gaze turned fierce. She stared at Sima Chang and Lu Yi, who was beside Sima Chang, with a murderous look on her face. If looks could kill, then she would have killed Sima Chang 100 times, 10,000 times. Lu Yi, it's really you? You really colluded with Sima Chang? Why? Yinliuli looked at Lu Yi and asked in confusion. One just want the Rukong Holy Land. Since one can't beat you, why can't I find external help? Lu Yi's face was filled with pride, and she even pretended to be a little bird that wanted to lean on Sima Chang's body. Get lost. However, Sima Chang was now furious out of humiliation. Yinliuli's joyous unification powder had already been cured, which meant that Yinliuli and the man beside her. He couldn't stand it. Immediately, the aura around his body erupted, and he directly bounced Lu Yi away, crashing into a pillar at the side. His face revealed an incomparably ferocious expression. Young Master Sima, why did you do that? After being sent flying and crashing into a pillar, Lu Yi's face revealed a puzzled expression. He had already had sex with Sima Chang, and Sima Chang was actually hitting him now. You're just a whore. You harmed your sect leader and betrayed your trust. I'm just playing with trash like you. Besides, you're a good for nothing. You've messed up the task I gave you. Go to hell, trash. Sima Nan slapped Lu Yi. Boom! With a shocking explosion, Lu Yi directly turned into a cloud of blood mist. In an instant he disappeared, and his soul was destroyed. You killed Lu Yi? Yinliuli, who saw this scene, was completely enraged. Sima Chang drugged him, plotted against him, and now he was even toying with his sister. You deserve to die. Yinliuli flew into a rage. Rainbow divine light began to emanate from her body. The divine light turned into a torrent that shot towards Sima Chang. Bang! The seven-colored divine light gathered, and seemed to be able to tear through space and shatter everything. Since you're no longer a virgin, there's no point in keeping you alive. Then you'll die today. Sima Chang said coldly, and his aura also erupted. Chapter 240 Chapter 240, Sima Chang Dead Ally. Chapter 240, Sima Chang Dead Ally. Roar! With a heaven-shaking roar, a huge force suddenly condensed into a huge black horse behind Sima Chang. The black horse appeared out of thin air. Its body was covered in black scales. The scales were dense and emitted a cold light. Death Horse Devour. Sima Chang grunted angrily, and black gas erupted around him. The horse of death headed straight for Yun Liuli's seven-colored divine light. Roar! The black horse shouted loudly, and spat out a black aura from its mouth. The black aura instantly engulfed the seven-colored divine light. Bang! The boundless rainbow divine light disappeared, and the black horse stepped on Yun Liuli's chest, sending her flying. Puff! Yun Liuli suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, causing the large bed behind her to shatter into pieces. It was not until it circulated its true essence that it managed to half kneel on the ground and barely support itself. You deserve to die. You deserve to die. Sima Chang roared angrily and looked at Wang Miaoshou. One don't care where you came from or what power you have behind you. If you dare to touch my people, one want you dead. I want you dead. Sima Chang said angrily as he drove his black horse towards Wang Miaoshou. What's going on? Wang Miaoshou, who was packing up her medicine box, revealed a puzzled expression. It seemed like he hadn't done anything. No. Yun Liuli watched as the black horse flew towards Wang Miaoshou. She immediately ignited her true essence and blocked in front of Wang Miaoshou. Wang Miaoshou had used her medical skills to save her. She had not been seriously injured, nor had she lost face. It was her benefactor. Even though she knew that her benefactor was powerful and did not fear this dark horse, she could not let her benefactor be offended like this. Bang! Another collision. In an instant, Yun Liuli was sent flying for the second time. This time, all the bones in her body collapsed, and she fell to the ground, unable to move. B*TCH. B*TCH. He was actually protecting someone else at this time. I must let you see with your own eyes today that I will skin him alive. Sima Chang roared in rage. His face was filled with rage and malevolence. His boundless aura once again drove the black horse, trampling directly towards Wang Miaoshou. Roar! The black horse neighed, its forelegs kicking like mountains. This is ridiculous. However, one have never liked people who poison people. Wang Miaoshou shook his head and directly clenched his fist, smashing it towards the black horse. Ha ha ha, I'm dying of laughter. He actually wants to use his physical body to receive my attack. He's simply delusional. Death Horse, crush him. Sima Chang sneered. This was the first time he had seen such a godly king, who was not prepared to use true essence, and wanted to block his killing move. How ridiculous. However, just as he was about to watch Wang Miaoshou disappear under the stomping of the horse of death, he was stunned. What happened next shocked him. Kacha! Wang Miaoshou's punch directly shattered the black horse condensed from true essence. The black horse of death formed by the vital essence dissipated in the space. Boundless power directly spread out in the space. How is that possible? Sima Chang was incomparably shocked, his face filled with disbelief. However, before he could finish his sentence, he felt a powerful force that could not be matched. It was like a brilliant and mighty force that directly bombarded his face. His entire face began to twist. All his teeth were knocked out. Puff! Sima Qiangquang coughed out a mouthful of blood and turned into a cloud of blood mist before disappearing. He was completely killed. Dead. Yun Liuli looked at everything in front of her in a daze, her face filled with shock. She had even completely forgotten about the pain in her body. She knew that Wang Miaoshou was very powerful. In the process of detoxifying her, Wang Miaoshou forcefully pressed him onto the bed, and then a bloody wound appeared on his arm. The poison flowed out of the wound. No matter how much he resisted, he could not struggle. Wang Miaosho's strength was the strongest she had ever seen. Initially, she thought that Wang Miaosho was already very strong. But now, after seeing Wang Miaosho kill Sima Chang with a single punch, she knew that Wang Miaosho's strength had far exceeded her imagination. Sigh, how troublesome. I have to treat you a second time. This is troublesome. Wang Miaosho shook her head and looked at Yin Liuli, who was lying on the ground. She walked over and used her own technique to reattach Yin Liuli's bones. For the next few days, just lie down. How about this? I'll give you an injection. This is the latest injection technique I developed and learned from Master. It can help you recover in the shortest time possible. End quote. I still want that flower. Wang Miaosho shook his head. He did not have much time now. He had to get the flower immediately. An injection? Yin Liuli was slightly taken aback, not understanding what he meant. At that moment, Huang Shang and the others ran over. Seeing the heavily injured Yin Liuli on the ground, they hurriedly helped her up. Senior wants to give you an injection. Huang Chang was stunned, then her face lit up with joy. Sisters, please leave. Huang Shang called out, and she was left alone. She whispered something into Yin Liuli's ear. Then a smirk appeared on her face, and she left as well. When Yin Liuli heard Huang Shang's words, a blush instantly appeared on her fair and pretty face. This HJH. Yin Liuli closed her eyes, her pretty face blushing. Because she was nervous, her entire body was heaving up and down. However, all of a sudden, she felt a slight stabbing pain on her skin. It was as if there was some kind of liquid flowing through the meridians in her arm and into her dantian. Soon after, an extremely warm aura instantly spread and erupted. Buzz! Quote. Yin Liuli's body began to emit a white glow. The white light began to envelop his entire body, enveloping him completely. Then her body began to undergo a huge change. Yin Liuli felt as if there were thousands of ants biting her inside her body. As the ants bit her, Yin Liuli's flesh, bones, meridians, and everything else grew rapidly. Finally, 15 minutes later, with a loud sound, Yin Liuli flew up from the ground. His entire aura became even sharper than before, and it contained even more terrifying aura. I broke through. Yin Liuli was overjoyed, her face filled with joy. Thank you, Senior. She hurriedly thanked Wang Miaosho. No need, don't give me these empty promises. Just give me the void flower. Chapter 241. Chapter 241. We want to become the Lords of the Divine. Chapter 241. We want to become the Lords of the Divine. Court. _I. Yes, sir. Yin Liuli didn't hesitate, and took out a flower that was a combination of red flames and blue ice. The moment the flower was taken out, two mysterious auras were reflected in the space, illuminating the entire room with red and ice blue colors. This is it. Wang Miaosho nodded. He could feel an extreme energy from this flower. It was obviously the flower that his master had instructed him to do. Give it to me. Wang Miaosho nodded and left with the flower. After Wang Miaosho left, Yin Liuli's expression darkened. Everyone, move out and exterminate the Sima clan. Yin Liuli said coldly, and gathered all the cultivators from the Void Holy Land. At the same time, the people of the Sima clan were also thinking about the Rukong Holy Land. Charge. Follow the clan. Quote. Let's charge together with the family head. When the time comes, we'll take down the Rukong Holy Land. Captain, how can one be enough? I want two. TSK. You are all too weak. I can fight 10 of you at once. Bragging. The Sima clan cultivators wore expressions of extreme joy. In their opinion, it would be extremely easy for them to go to the Rukong Holy Land and destroy it. In fact, after the war, they would completely occupy the Rukong Holy Land. At that time, the women of the Rukong Holy Land would be at their mercy. Hee Lord Steward, which one of the Rukong Holy Land do you like? Let our brothers keep it for you. A cultivator from the Sima clan came to the steward's side and asked eagerly, which female cultivator? The butler was stunned for a moment before saying, that Huang Shang. All right, I'll pass it down now. Brothers, listen up. That Huang Shang is the butler's dish. Don't touch her. The servant shouted. Soon after, the crowd burst into laughter. Everyone went forward in high spirits. Some of the male cultivators had already undergone some changes in their bodies and began to become impatient. Hee, I heard that I'm your type. Right at this moment, Huang Shang suddenly appeared in front of the Sima clan's group, smiling as he looked at the Sima clan steward. What? You want to throw yourself into my arms now? Sure. Come on, baby. The butler opened his arms with a lewd smile on his face, and even made some provocative movements. All right. Huang Shang walked over with a smile, and was about to enter the butler's embrace. But in that instant, a cold light flashed. Psst! It was like a sword light that was extremely fast. Almost no one present could guess. The sword light had already pierced through the butler's lower body. Ah! The butler let out a shrill scream. He felt as if the world was about to collapse. Waves of intense pain assaulted him. Then 2 spherical objects appeared under his feet, as well as half of something else. Hee, I forgot to tell you. I only want you to be my sister. Now you're my sister. Isn't that great? Huang Shang smiled. As for the Sima clan cultivators, they all gasped. They looked at the butler rolling on the ground, and subconsciously used their true essence to form a rain shield below them. Sisters, come out and castrate them all. With Huang Chang's order, countless female cultivators suddenly appeared from the space beside them. The entire battlefield was filled with sword light, and blood and flesh flew everywhere. It took less than 15 minutes. The Sima clan cultivators fell to the ground and screamed miserably. Their faces were filled with pain. The scene was filled with blood. It was simply too tragic to look at. Hee, sisters, wait for them to save themselves. Huang Shang said with a smile. On the other side, Li Wushuang's body was filled with energy. Along the way, she had robbed and killed several god monarch realm forces. Nailin Yan, who was dressed in purple, had a look of joy on her face as she placed everything into her ring. Treasure. Do you still like these things? Li Wushuang hugged Nailin Yan's waist and said excitedly. Of course, the more the better. Nailin Yan said with a smile. With these resources, her strength would also be able to advance by leaps and bounds. At that time, she would go and settle the score with that Futian. She wanted Futian to kneel before her. She wanted Futian to become her slave. She wanted Futian to become her bootlicker again, licking her respectfully and not disobeying her at all. Treasure as long as you like it. Moi, give me a kiss. Li Wushuang laughed as she slapped Nailin Yan's butt. She then stuck out her mouth and smacked Nailin Yan's face. Nailin Yan did not say anything, but a trace of disgust still flashed across her eyes. This Li Wushuang was like a bootlicker. She was completely his spare tire. When she became stronger in the future, she would kick Li Wushuang away. No, if he killed Li Wushuang, no one would know about him. He would still be that cold goddess. However, what kind of information does the Divine Emperor want us to send to Divine King Mystic Jade that feels so important? After Li Wushuang finished talking, she frowned and revealed a puzzled expression. He stared at the stone in his hand. There were some ancient patterns carved on it. It seemed that only the descendants of the Black Cloak Deity King could use the power of their bloodline to open this thing. Brother Wushuang, why don't we do this? When we arrive at Divine King Black Jade's territory, we will secretly hide and eavesdrop. Nailin Yan said. She was also extremely curious about this news. All right, Bao, whatever you say. Li Wushuang nodded. Even if Nailin Yan wanted him to die, he was willing. Soon, the two of them flew to the Mystic Jade Immortal Continent and told Divine King Mystic Jade about this matter. Since that's the case, thank you very much. Then, they exchanged some pleasantries before Li Wushuang, and Li Yan took the opportunity to leave. They then secretly dug a secret tunnel underground and arrived below Divine King Xianyu. In the main hall, Divine King Xianyu dripped a drop of his blood onto it. Then, the black-robed deity emperor's shadow suddenly appeared. Xianyu, what I'm going to tell you next is very important. You have to guarantee that no one knows. The rumored master of the divine court has already reincarnated. Hurry up and lock onto his aura. As long as we hide in the luck of the master of the divine hall, we can. The divine emperor said in an old voice. Li Wuxuang and Nalin Yin were stunned. Chapter 242, Chapter 242. Something happened to the Beast Tamer Sect 1. Chapter 242. Something happened to the Beast Tamer Sect 1. Lord of the Divine Court. Snatch the fate of the Lord of the Divine Court, and become the controller of the divine world. Li Wuxuang and Nalin Yin, who had been hiding underground eavesdropping, had heard the entire news, and were extremely shocked. Let's go. Knowing how important this secret was, Li Wuxuang's expression turned cold, and she disappeared with Nalin Yin. Very quickly, the two of them arrived at the small forest. Big brother Wuxuang, if we snatch the luck of the master of the divine court, won't we be able to control the divine world? Since we know the secret, let's do it. Nalin Yin urged from the side. However, Li Wuxuang shook her head and said seriously, Yin'er, this matter involves too much water. It's not something that you and one can grasp. We should stay away from this matter to survive. Li Wuxuang said seriously. What are you afraid of? At most, I will just die. Brother Wuxuang, you are not so cowardly, are you? Nalin Yin shook her head and frowned, her eyes revealing a look of suspicion as she examined Li Wuxuang from head to toe. That gaze. It was as if he was asking Li Wuxuang, can you do it? She wanted to encourage Li Wuxuang. If she succeeded, she could become the paragon of the divinity. If he failed, Li Wuxuang was the one who died. What did it have to do with her? Being stared at like this, Li Wuxuang was instantly enraged. Impossible. Would I, Li Wuxuang, cower? I, Li Wuxuang, am not afraid of anything. Isn't it just snatching the fate of the Lord of the Divine Court? Li Wuxuang patted her chest and said heroically. That's right, this is the brother Wuxuang that one like. Nalin Yin said with a smile. Hee. Then I will let you know how great I am now. A rustling sound came from the small forest. Within the mystic Jade Divine Hall. Divine King Xianyu was listening to the black-robed emperor's story carefully. Suddenly, the black-robed emperor's shadow disappeared and turned into a black light, entering Divine King Xianyu's mind. What was that? The Lord of the Divine Court still has his old subordinates. Let Li Wuxuang be the bait first, and then we'll attack? And quote. Ancestor, one understand. Let's not do anything for now. Divine King Xianyu said calmly. He already knew the ancestor's plan. The black-robed emperor god had left 2 auras on Li Wuxuang's body. With the appearance of these 2 auras, he could lock onto Li Wuxuang's location at any time. As long as Li Wuxuang made a move, they would be able to sense it. As long as both Li Wuxuang and the old subordinates of the divine court were injured, Divine King Xian, you would be the Oriole behind them. In the courtyard. It was a sunny day. Following a day of toil, the dozen godly kings and those powerhouses all collapsed from exhaustion. She went straight to the corner and squatted down to sleep. Hoo. In just a few breaths, snoring sounds could be heard. Even Tion felt that his legs were completely sore. Even when he walked, he was trembling. His body swayed, and his face was filled with disbelief. Everything here was simply thousands of miles away from his divine court. Even a random brick on the roof was a divine artifact in the eyes of everyone. However, only Tion, who was the leader of the divine court, understood that these things might not even be available in the entire divine world. In fact, it was even possible. These things came from the rumored Beyond Avalon. It was just that the heavens beyond heaven was extremely mysterious. Even he himself only knew about it by chance. Tion leaned against the wall with difficulty, covering his face as he fell asleep. The moonlight fell on the courtyard, and it was gentle. The ground seemed to be covered with a layer of light gauze, ethereal and gentle. In Xiao Changtian's room, Chuiren was already used to sleeping next to him. Sir God Qin, what are you doing? Why haven't you killed that person yet? Divine Lord Qin, who was hiding in the toilet, was contacted by the demon god with his divine will. Demon god, you're tricking me. He has so many peerless experts by his side, as well as the black tortoise and the phoenix. Wait for a divine beast. Moreover, you're probably not a match for that peerless expert, right? Sir God 7 Zither asked coldly. It was not until he worked these few days that he knew why the demon god wanted to raise his cultivation to the divine king realm. Because he couldn't kill the demon god himself, he wanted to set him up. If you can't complete the mission, then you don't have to live anymore in 5 days. Let's go, the demon god said coldly before disappearing. Damn it! Chi-Chin cursed, but he had no other choice. The demon god's strength was far above his. Since the demon god was able to let him advance to the godly king realm, he was naturally able to kill him as well. Damn it, who exactly is Chu-Iren? Why does the demon god care so much? Divine Lord Chi-Chin revealed a puzzled expression. In the divine realm, demon gods were high and mighty existences. Very few people could come into contact with the Tao, because the realm of demon gods was the divine emperor realm. In the era before the divine emperor appeared, the godly kings were considered invincible. We can only find an opportunity to lure them out, and then trap them. As Chi-Chin said that, he was already thinking of a solution. The only way is to start with Maniac Chu. Divine Lord Chi-Chin was thinking about it. Taking advantage of the night, the black tortoise and a few others were distracted. They sent out a divine sense and possessed a cultivator in the sky. It was a male cultivator riding a flying sword. Suddenly, the male cultivator was possessed by Divine Lord Chi-Chin's divine sense and headed towards Beast Tamer sect. Time passed. Countless things happened that night. The entire continent was extremely quiet and peaceful. Only Nambu State. Blazing flames filled the sky, and thick black smoke rose into the sky. It condensed and gathered in the sky above the Southport continent, forming a huge black cloud. The black clouds were so bright that they blocked all the light in the entire Southport continent. From afar, it looked as if the Southport state had been suppressed by a terrifying existence. What happened in the direction of the Southport continent? It seems that a sect has been destroyed. In the small courtyard, a group of godly monarchs spread their divine senses out towards the Southport continent. Immediately, they saw the Beast Tamer sect with broken walls and ruins, their faces covered in dust. In the Beast Tamer sect, the corpses of demons and cultivators were everywhere. Blood flowed like a river, and a bloody aura filled the entire Beast Tamer sect. What happened outside? Why is it so noisy? Inside the room, Chu-Iren rubbed her eyes as she overheard the discussion outside the courtyard. She vaguely seemed to have heard the words "something happened to the Beast Tamer sect." Something happened to Beast Tamer sect? Chu-Iren said anxiously as she stood up from the bed. Chapter 243. Chapter 243. Taoist Master De Yang can catch ghosts. _L. Chapter 243. Taoist Master De Yang can catch ghosts. _L. Chu-Iren stood up. Xiao Changtian was also startled awake. He opened his eyes and saw Chu-Iren in her clothes. Chu-Iren stood there, looking extremely anxious. "Iren, what happened? Why are you standing here?" Xiao Changtian frowned as he stood up from the bed. "I don't know. It seems that something has happened to the Beast Tamer sect." Chu-Iren shook her head. The Beast Tamer sect was her home, but now that something had happened. Tears welled up in Chu-Iren's eyes. "Don't cry. If something really happens, I'm still here." Xiao Changtian hurriedly consoled Chu-Iren when he saw her like this. The world of cultivation was cruel. Tomorrow will be unexpected, and no one knows which one will come first. "All right." Chu-Iren nodded and followed Xiao Changtian out. "Senior, it's not good. The Beast Tamer sect seems to have been ambushed last night. It's in ruins now. We just heard someone talk about this." Elder Zhui walked over and said to Xiao Changtian, "Did something really happen?" Chu-Iren asked before Xiao Changtian could say anything. In the next moment, her eyes were filled with tears. She ran out of the courtyard and rode on the Snow Wolf King. The Beast Tamer sect was the place where she had lived for more than 10 years, as well as her father. "Hurry back to the Beast Tamer sect." Chu Iren urged the Snow Wolf King beneath her. The Snow Wolf King nodded and transformed into a streak of light, leaving Daong Town and heading towards Nambu State. Qi watched Chu Iren leave, a devilish smile on his lips. As long as Chu Iren left alone, he would be able to find a chance to kill her. Immediately after, Sir God Qi sent a message to his clone. His goal was to kill Chu Iren while she was out alone, and complete the mission the demon god had given him. This girl is too anxious. Forget it. I'll contact the people of Daong Town and follow them. Xiao Changtian said lightly, and sent a message to Taoist Big Sunday. Father, please don't let anything happen to you. Chu Iren was extremely anxious. The Snow Wolf King beneath her was also running at high speed, leaving behind a trail of afterimages. During this period of time, the Snow Wolf King had turned into a little white dog and wandered around the town. But did it mean that he could get a few pointers from Alpha? The current Snow Wolf King had already entered the Mahayana realm. Crossing the North Sea in the Mahayana realm was not difficult at all. In just a quarter of an hour, Chu Iren rushed back from Daong Town. The Snow Wolf King had just landed on the Beast Tamer sect's territory when Chu Iren saw the corpses of demonic beasts and cultivators strewn all over the ground. The huge palace that the Beast Tamer sect had originally rebuilt turned into ashes again. A bloody and nauseating aura filled the entire Beast Tamer sect. Who did it? Quote. Chu Iren's eyes sparkled as she bellowed in rage. Her aura was icy cold, and her expression was extremely malevolent. Pa! Her whip instantly appeared and swept out, splitting a small mountain in the distance into two. Who did this? One want to tear you to pieces. Chu Iren was furious. She scanned the area with her spiritual will, but to her surprise, she couldn't find any trace of her father, Maniac Chu, among the corpses. Young master. At this moment a weak voice sounded. A large hand slowly stretched out from under the stone. Elder Wang, are you still alive? Chu Iren was overjoyed. Just by hearing the voice, she could recognize that it was Elder Wang. Iren, your father is on Yinding Mountain. An expert took him away. Quickly tell the senior, and ask him to help you. Elder Wang said weakly. Yinding Mountain. When Chu Iren heard this, she was suddenly enraged. There seemed to be a faint green glow flickering in her eyes. She seemed to have lost her mind. Suddenly, her aura rose, and she flew towards Yinding Mountain. Iren. Elder Wang was shocked. He wanted to stop Chu Iren, but she seemed to have lost her mind. She couldn't hear Elder Wang at all. What happened to Iren? Elder Wang frowned. Even the Snow Wolf King was kneeling on the ground and fighting. It was as if there was extreme fear in its soul. All. How dare you touch my father? You're courting death. Chu Iren's body glowed with a green light. Her speed had reached its peak, and the power around her had also reached its peak. Who is that? What a powerful aura. What fast speed. One didn't even see that person's appearance clearly. Down below, a few Mahayana realm cultivators were hurrying on their way when they suddenly sensed Chu Iren flying in the sky. Their faces revealed looks of shock. That aura had already far exceeded the Mahayana realm. Far away in the divine world. In a certain illusory place, the demon god who was in seclusion suddenly opened his eyes. What? Is the main body awakening its memories? Quote. The demon god was shocked. This won't do. Divine Lord Qi can't kill the main body now. We have to find a divine emperor to descend to the lower realm. Heavenly King Qi. The demon god's spiritual will connected directly to the divine king. In the Beast Tamer sect, Xiao Changtian and Taoist De Yang rushed over. Seeing the Beast Tamer sect in ruins, Xiao Changtian frowned. However, after scanning the area, he couldn't find Chu Iren. Senior. Something happened to Iren. Hurry up and save her. There seems to be something wrong with her mind. Elder Wang hurriedly explained and described what had happened. Xiao Changtian frowned. Green light emitting from its body, Xiao Changtian muttered to himself. Suddenly he was shocked. He remembered that he had killed a green ghost with an arrow when he was hunting. Could it be a ghost? Hissed, it must be. Xiao Changtian gasped. Being haunted by a ghost was no small matter. Ordinary people couldn't fight ghosts. After thinking for a while, Xiao Changtian looked at the great sun immortal and asked, Daoist big sun, do you know how to catch ghosts? Catching ghosts. The great sun immortal was stunned, and a puzzled expression appeared on his face. How could a mere ghost be compared to an immortal cultivator? However, why did Senior ask such a question? It should be. It's all right. The great sun immortal said hesitantly. That's good. Xiao Changtian nodded. He didn't expect that the great sun immortal was not only powerful, but also good at catching ghosts. Chapter 244. Chapter 244. Defeating the Divine King. _I. Chapter 244. Defeating the Divine King. _I. Then let's go. Quote. Xiao Changtian was instantly filled with confidence when he heard that Daoist Big Sun could catch ghosts. He headed in the direction Chu Yiren had left in. As for Chu Yiren, her speed had increased by leaps and bounds as her strength increased. She had long since reached Mount Yendang. Yendang Mountain. The vast 100,000 mountains looked misty and blocked his vision. However, at this moment a murderous atmosphere enveloped the entire Yendang Mountain. Chu Yiren's body glowed with a green light, her face filled with killing intent. Green vital essence enveloped the entire Yendang Mountain. Come out! Chu Yiren shouted angrily. Yiren! What's wrong, Yiren? Maniac Chu was hanging from the cliff. He looked at the completely different Chu Yiren in front of him, and asked curiously. However, no matter how he shouted, it was as if Chu Yiren couldn't hear him at all. Her entire body was filled with murderous intent, her aura cold and piercing. We're finally here. Now is a good opportunity to kill you. At this moment, the cultivator possessed by 7 zither walked out of the cave, and smiled at Chu Yiren. However, when he raised his head and saw the aura around Chu Yiren, his heart skipped a beat. How can you have such a terrifying aura? The cultivator stared at Chu Yiren, his expression changing drastically. At this moment, Chu Yiren's aura had already reached its peak. In terms of aura, she had completely surpassed 7 Zither God King. What happened? 7 Zither God King, who was collecting dust in the courtyard, also sensed something. He could sense that his divine sense was under great threat. Quote. The cultivator, who was possessed by 7 Zither's divine sense, had a look of terror on his face. In front of Chu Yiren, he couldn't muster any resistance at all. Run! 7 String, who was in the small courtyard, immediately gave an order to his clone. The possessed cultivator instantly turned into a ray of light and disappeared from Yendang Mountain. He was burning his true essence to escape. However, Chu Yiren's expression turned cold, her entire face filled with a murderous intent. She too transformed into a green beam of light and flew out. Can you escape? Chu Yiren said coldly, as she reached out with her hand. The moment he grabbed out, it was as if thousands of laws had condensed in the huge hand. As it whistled out, the cultivator who wanted to escape was directly caught in the huge hand. Come out! As Chu Yiren shouted, the spiritual clone flew out of the cultivator's body. How dare you scheme against me? You're courting death. Chu Yiren was about to crush Qi Qin's spiritual will clone. However, at this moment, an even more powerful aura suddenly descended. Boom! As the aura descended, the entire space seemed to collapse. A figure dressed in brownish-gray clothes suddenly appeared from the spatial rift. The moment he appeared, he enveloped the entire void, staring coldly at Chu Yiren. As expected, he stared at Chu Yiren with a grave expression. Then he slapped out with his palm, destroying Divine Lord Qi Qin's divine sense clone. In the courtyard, Sir God Qi Qin, who was working, suddenly staggered and roared. He spat out blood and fell unconscious. Since the monster god entrusted me with this task, I will kill you today. The Divine King looked at Chu Yiren, the aura around him surging like a vast ocean. He sent a palm strike towards Chu Yiren, and in an instant, she was sent flying. All! Chu Yiren roared as the green light around him dissipated rapidly. At this moment, a magic treasure appeared in the hand of the Divine Emperor. It was a cone-shaped magic treasure. The spikes of the magical equipment also flickered with a green light. With the appearance of the green light, the phantom of a demon god seemed to appear in the void. The demon god phantom stared at Chu Iren before him. Floating in the air above her, it stretched out 10 sharp claws, clawing at Chu Iren. At this moment, Xiao Changtian and the great sun immortal also arrived. Not good. The malicious ghost is going to devour Chu Iren. Taoist Big Sun, do something. Xiao Changtian hurriedly said. Good. The great sun immortal nodded, but the green figure in front of him was not a ghost, but an extremely powerful cultivator. The great sun immortal frowned. He was sure that he was no match for that person. Then he frowned and took out the Nanming primordial fire painting from his interspatial ring. Whoosh! The moment the Nanming flame tattoo appeared, a terrifying flame law instantly whistled out. The raging flames transformed into a long dragon, and in an instant, it had already surrounded Chu Iren, protecting her. Just as the demon god's projection was about to devour Chu Iren, the flaming dragon engulfed it completely. What? Nanming primordial fire? No, this was a higher level flame. The demon god's entire person had an incomparably terrified expression. That flame contained an unprecedented power that he had never seen before. The only thing she was sure of was that there was an aura that could threaten him within this terrifying flame. However, Chu Iren had to be killed. The demon god decided to bet on the first one. Divine King Chi Tian, help me. The demon god said coldly, looking at the divine king. The divine king nodded, and the two of them charged towards Chu Iren. Perfected De Yang, can you do it 1-on-2? Xiao Changtian looked at the immortal cultivator and the ghost in front of him. He couldn't help but worry. These two were not easy to deal with. There shouldn't be a problem, right? Elder De Yang said hesitantly. Senior's Nanming Ignis painting is a supreme divine painting. Moreover, even if he couldn't defeat the Nanming Ignis diagram, wasn't Senior still here? That's good. Xiao Changtian was relieved. The great sun immortal didn't dare to be negligent. After all, he could solve it himself, so it was best not to trouble the great sun immortal. He frowned and focused all of his knowledge on controlling the Nanming Ignis diagram. Phew! The fierce red flames howled and transformed into a huge burning hell. The burning hell spread and pounced towards the demon god and the Chitian divine king. Bang! The two extreme forces collided, producing a violent boom. It was as if mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. A dazzling white light erupted from the entire space, enveloping the entire world. In the light, the demon god's phantom was directly swallowed by the flames and completely disappeared. The divine king was also heavily injured and unconscious. Chapter 245. Chapter 245. It's needed to revise the books I write later. Chapter 245. It's needed to revise the books I write later. 1. Holding the Nanming Ignis painting, the great sun immortal slowly retracted the surrounding flames. As the flames dissipated, Xiao Changtian immediately walked over to Chu Iren's side and placed his finger on her nostrils. Fortunately, I wasn't killed by the malicious ghost just now. Xiao Changtian heaved a sigh of relief when he felt Chu Iren's breath. Following that, Xiao Changtian picked Chu Iren up from the ground and said to Taoist Big Sun, Taoist Big Sun, let's hurry back. Although Chu Iren was still breathing, she was still unconscious. There was no telling what the malicious ghost had done to her body. It was better to hurry back to the courtyard and investigate. Upon hearing Xiao Changtian's words, the great sun immortal did not dare to be negligent and waved his sleeves. Then, he carried Chu Yang on his back and brought Xiao Changtian back to the courtyard. Senior. As soon as Taoist Deong and Xiao Changtian landed in the courtyard, Elder Zhui greeted Xiao Changtian. However, Xiao Changtian didn't have time to care about them. His figure landed in the courtyard, and he brought the immortal De Yang to his room. After Xiao Changtian slowly placed Chu Iren on the bed, he turned to Taoist Big Sun behind him and said, Taoist Big Sun, can you please check if the malicious ghost left anything on her? Although he had the system's great success in medical skills, He was still immortal after all. It was fine to treat the patients of the neighbors on normal days. But if they really encountered the problem of being possessed by ghosts, they would have to hand it over to immortal cultivators like the Great Sun to solve it. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changtian's words, he was also stunned. This senior's medical skills were far above his. Why would he let him treat her? He couldn't say that he was proficient in medicine. It was simply nonsense. Even though he was thinking this, he still sat down by the bed. He picked up Chu Iren's wrist with his left hand and placed his right hand on it. A surge of spirit energy entered Chu Iren's body. Although he didn't know how to treat others, he had no problem checking their injuries. Moreover, there must be a reason why Senior asked him to do this. Very quickly, the spiritual force circulated through Chu Iren's body. After placing Chu Iren's wrist back on the bed, Daoist Big Sun slowly got up and said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, this girl is just exhausted. She'll be fine after a few days of rest." Xiao Changtian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal. With an expert like Daoist Big Sun investigating, nothing would happen to Iren, right? After all, not everyone was as strong as the Great Sun Immortal, so it was normal for him to be frightened to the point of collapse by a malicious ghost. When the time came, he would just give her a few doses of medicine to adjust. However, on the Beast Tamer sect's side, thinking of this, Xiao Changtian said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Daoist Big Sun, how do you think we should deal with the Beast Tamer sect?" When they were fighting in the 4 symbol regions, the Great Sun Immortal was the chief of the 5 region. Xiao Changtian still wanted to know how he planned to deal with the sneak attack on the Beast Tamer sect. After hearing Xiao Changtian's words, the Great Sun Immortal immediately understood something and said hurriedly, "Don't worry, I'll get the disciples of the Great Sun sect to help them rebuild the Beast Tamer sect." This senior had asked him how to deal with her, and he had also asked him to check on Chu Iren's injuries. Wasn't it just to give him a chance to build a good relationship with the Beast Tamer sect? Right now, he was the weakest among all the cultivators who stayed by Senior's side. Senior wanted him to build a good relationship with these sects and promote him. Thinking of this, the Great Sun Immortal looked at Xiao Changtian with gratitude. After Xiao Changtian heard that the Great Sun Immortal wanted to help the Beast Tamer sect rebuild, he looked at the Great Sun Immortal's eyes. How sincere! This Immortal De Yang was really a good cultivator. This was completely different from the novels he had read in his previous life. It seemed that the books he wrote in the future needed to be revised. After all, he had personally experienced it in the cultivation world. In the sky above the 5 region, "Haha, I'm back." A clear voice rang out in the air. Then, a muscular man wearing animal skin and with horns on his head walked out from the crack in the air. "Iron Eater, we will soon be able to conquer the heavens together." The fur-clad man looked at the mountains and rivers below him, his eyes filled with excitement. Previously, when he was traveling in the divine world and passing by the Sanluo Immortal Continent, he discovered the aura of his previous mount, the Iron Eater. It wasn't as if he hadn't thought of returning to the Tianyuan continent to bring the Iron Eaters to the divine realm. However, the laws on the barrier between the 2 worlds were too powerful. He could not do anything to it. This time, the Sanluo Immortal Continent actually discovered the aura of the Iron Eater. A crack suddenly appeared in the barrier between the 2 worlds, and he immediately ran down. The Iron Eater should have been in the Beast Tamer sect, but the opening of the ancient door and the birth of the Great Emperor have had a huge impact on this world. The fur-clad man muttered as he stood in midair. Then, the true essence in his hand gathered and transformed into a ball of light that appeared in front of his chest. "Go!" The fur-clad man shouted and pointed his finger forward. The ball of light turned into a stream of light and flew down. This was the method Chu Yuanshan used to sense the Iron Eaters. After the light ball flew out, it would help him find the location of the Iron Eaters. Wah! Wah! Chu Yuanshan had just taken a step when a childish voice sounded in his ear. Chu Yuanshan turned around and saw a giant panda hugging his thigh. She was looking at him with her big, watery eyes, and she was even touching her stomach. Fuck you. When I get the Iron Eater back, I'll sell you for money. Seeing the giant panda on his thigh, Chu Yuanshan cursed. At the same time, his right hand took out a few spiritual bamboos from his waist pouch and reluctantly handed them to it. After the giant panda received the spiritual bamboo, it seemed as if it did not hear Chu Yuanshan's words just now. It put it in its mouth and started gnawing. When Chu Yuanshan saw the giant panda gnawing on the bamboo by itself, his figure flashed and disappeared into the air. As for the giant panda, every time he ignored it, he would automatically follow. And at this moment the fat Rongrong in Xiao Changtian's courtyard also looked up at the sky, as if she had sensed something, saying to the old turtle on her head, "I can feel that my ex-owner is rushing towards me." After hearing Fatty Rongrong's words, the old turtle also stretched out his head from his shell. After taking a look at the sky, they discovered that a ball of light was chasing after them. Chapter 246 Chapter 246. Want to have designs on my Rongrong? No way. _I. Chapter 246. Want to have designs on my Rongrong? No way. _I. When the old turtle saw the ball of light, he casually spat out a green light. He retracted his head back into his turtle shell. Fatty was now considered his little brother, but his previous master had actually sealed his little brother underground for 10,000 years. As the big brother, how could he tolerate this? In the air, Chu Yuanshan followed the light ball in front of him and kept moving forward. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew across the sky. The light ball in front of Chu Yuanshan shook violently and then exploded in midair. After the cold wind passed, Chu Yuanshan's face turned gloomy. He scanned the area where he was with his holy sense. The ball of light exploded. How could he not understand that the cold wind just now was not a natural phenomenon at all? It was an attack deliberately launched by someone to target him. Could it be that something happened to the Iron Eater during my absence? Chu Yuanshan looked at the sky in front of him with a gloomy expression. He had come back to find the Iron Eater for another important reason, which was to capture the leader of the Divine Court. With its current strength, it was definitely unable to fight against those old fellows hiding in the dark. However, with the Iron Eater, it was not necessarily the case. As long as he joined forces with the Iron Eater, Chu Yuanshan was confident that he could even fight a Divine Emperor. Someone had just launched an attack on him, which meant that someone had already known his movements in advance. Then, Chu Yuanshan looked down at Dayang Town. However, the town below had a larger population in this area. His senses towards the Iron Eaters were getting more and more intense. There was no doubt that the Iron Eaters were in this area. With this thought in mind, Chu Yuanshan did not stay in the air any longer. In a flash he appeared in Dayang Town. I never thought that the people of the Tianyuan continent would still be so weak after the door of antiquity opened. Chu Yuanshan walked on the streets of Dayang Town and looked at the bustling crowd as he muttered. In his perception, none of the cultivators in Dayang Town had reached the martial monarch realm, let alone the divine realm. Chu Yuanshan shook his head disappointedly. If the cultivators here were stronger, he could have searched their souls. However, based on his estimation of the strength of the expert who had attacked him just now, he could not help but wonder. It should be the same as him, reaching the godly king realm. Otherwise, it was impossible for his spiritual sense to not capture any traces. An expert of this level was not something that the cultivators in this small town could discover. Chu Yuanshan walked on the street and saw the yard that Xiao Changtian was renovating. Although the main cultivator was a Desheng stage cultivator, the bricks on the courtyard made him feel extraordinary. Chu Yuanshan walked toward Xiao Changtian's courtyard with the intention of taking a look. Just as she raised her hand to knock on the door of the courtyard, she saw a giant panda in the courtyard. At this moment, the giant panda was curled up in a corner of the courtyard, and there was an old turtle pointing at it. Chu Yuanshan slowly lowered his arm that was suspended in midair. His face was gloomy. The Iron Eater that he had been thinking about for so many years was actually being ridden on by an old turtle. Even when it was his mount, he had never treated it this way. With anger in his heart, Chu Yuanshan kicked open the door of the courtyard. Bang! The sudden sound of the door being pushed open immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the courtyard. The little goldfish in the pond, the old hen in the chicken coop, and the old turtle all looked at the door angrily. Who is it? Who dares to kick Senior's door like this? Gan Tianlei was furious when he saw the door being kicked open. As the guards of the courtyard, it was their duty to guard the gate. Now that the door had been kicked open, what if he made the senior unhappy and chased him away? Seeing Chu Yuanshan walk in, Gan Tianlei and the rest walked over angrily. What's wrong with you? Are you asking for a beating? With the thought of being fired by Xiao Changtian, Emo Shingu shouted at Chu Yuanshan angrily. Chu Yuanshan looked at the four people in front of him with disdain. A few small cultivators of the great vehicle stage dared to block in front of him. They really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. With a thought, he decided to finish off Emo Shingu and the others on the spot. Creak! At the same time, Xiao Changtian's door slowly opened with a creaking sound. Xiao Changtian walked out of the room. Xiao Changtian also heard a loud bang in the room and quickly came out to check. After looking at the direction of the building of the first elder, Xiao Changtian also let out a sigh of relief. He had thought that some worker had been injured while moving bricks. Now, it seemed that everyone's expressions were as normal as before. There was no problem. Then, Xiao Changtian looked in the direction of the gate. He saw his four guards and a fur-clad man standing together. It was unknown what they were talking about. Senior. When Emo Shingu and the others saw Xiao Changtian come out, they also bowed to him. Chu Yuanshan saw Xiao Changtian's appearance and Emo Shingu's behavior. He knew that Xiao Changtian was the master of this courtyard. Sweeping with his holy sense, he found that Xiao Changtian didn't have any spiritual energy fluctuation. For mortal, the cultivators of the Tianyuan continent have all been defeated. How dare you let a mortal guard the house? Chu Yuanshan looked at Xiao Changtian contemptuously and was about to walk towards Pang Rong. If the light ball had not exploded, Chu Yuanshan would have killed everyone in the courtyard. However, he thought that he might have been exposed. Considering the importance of the Lord of the Divine Court, he decided to take the Iron Eater away. At this time, he did not want to see any complications. Xiao Changtian saw Chu Yuanshan walking towards Pang Rong. He then looked at the clothes he was wearing. He was wearing a beast skin shirt and had antlers on his head. He's obviously a hunter. Could it be that he's interested in my Pang Rong and wants to capture him and sell him for money? Thinking of this, Xiao Changtian immediately walked over and stood in front of Chu Yuanshan. Friend, don't you know that it's illegal to trespass in Dayang Town? Chu Yuanshan looked at Xiao Changtian, who had suddenly appeared in front of him. A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. This reckless mortal actually dared to block in front of him. He had just gathered the truth in his hand when he thought of the matter of the Lord of the Divine Court. He could not help but suppress his anger. The Zhen Yuan in his hand dissipated, and he was about to walk around Xiao Changtian towards Pang Rong. Xiao Changtian saw that the fur-clad man didn't care about him at all, and was about to walk towards Pang Rong. At that moment, he was also a little angry. He was already polite enough to him. Since he refused a toast only to drink a forfeit, then he could not blame himself. Want to have designs on my Rongrong? No way. Then, he shouted at Chu Yuanshan. This friend, if you have designs on my Rongrong, please leave, otherwise one can only chase you out. Chapter 247 Chapter 247 You're the best at acting 1. Chapter 247 You're the best at acting 1. Chu Yuanshan heard Xiao Changtian's words and stopped in his tracks. Looking at Xiao Changtian in front of him, and recalling what he had just said, he couldn't help but confirm. You said you are its master? Chu Yuanshan pointed at Pang Rong. Since he didn't know Pang Rong's name, he wanted to confirm it. Xiao Changtian followed Chu Yuanshan's finger. As expected, he was here to capture Pang Rong. In his previous life, giant pandas were rare animals and were protected by the country. However, There were still people who wanted to capture them for a high price. Xiao Changtian didn't expect that the cultivation world was the same. As an animal keeper, Xiao Changtian hated this kind of behavior. The giant panda was so cute. How could she capture him? He didn't give Chu Yuanshan a good look and slowly said to him, "That's right, I'm his master. So what? If you want to hit him, there's no way." Chu Yuanshan's face darkened after Xiao Changtian's confirmation. So it was this guy who had just blown up his light ball. No wonder he was standing in front of him without fear. He couldn't sense any spiritual power on his body. It was probably because he had cultivated some kind of special cultivation technique. Filled with anger, Chu Yuanshan threw a punch at Xiao Changtian. Whether it was on the Tian Yuan continent or the divine realm, he was the strongest existence. Back on the Tian Yuan continent, he was a revered ancient emperor. In the divine world, when the god emperor or god emperor did not appear, he was the god king that was revered by tens of thousands of people. When had he ever been provoked like this? Xiao Changtian saw Chu Yuanshan punching at him without a word. "Fuck, are you trying to trick me?" In the blink of an eye, Xiao Changtian twisted his neck and dodged Chu Yuanshan's punch. Although he couldn't cultivate, his martial arts had already reached the realm of great success. The person in front of him was obviously not an immortal cultivator. Otherwise, why would Emo Shingu and the others let him in? She must have seen that he was immortal and could not attack him. Xiao Changtian had heard about this before. There was karma in the cultivation world when they attacked mortals. Since he was not an immortal cultivator, he still dared to be so arrogant in his own courtyard. If he did not teach him a lesson, he would think that he was made of paper. He also punched Chu Yuanshan's abdomen. Bang! Chu Yuanshan thought it was an accident and was about to launch a second attack. He felt the blood and qi in his body churning from his abdomen. Then, like a kite with a broken string, he flew towards the door. "TSK, I thought he was strong. How dare such trash have designs on my Pang Rong?" After sending Chu Yuanshan flying with a punch, Xiao Changtian also looked at the door with disdain. He was wearing a beast robe and a pair of antlers. If he didn't know, he would have thought that he was awesome. He didn't expect that he would be so weak. Then, Xiao Changtian walked in front of Pang Rong, took the turtle off his head, and threw it into the pond. She rubbed his little head and slowly said, "Don't be afraid, Pang Rong. I will protect you." Hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Pang Rong's eyes were filled with tears. When he saw Chu Yuanshan, Fatty Rong had thought of talking to him. She asked him why he had sealed her and abandoned her. However, after hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Pang Rong felt that none of this mattered. Isn't it great to have such an awesome and considerate master and big brother Black Tortoise? Xiao Changtian saw the tears in Pang Rong's eyes and wiped them away. This giant panda must have been frightened just now. It had the same sense of smell as a hunter. Animals also had a sense of smell towards hunters. It must have been frightened by that guy just now. After comforting Pang Rong for a while, Xiao Changtian stood up and walked to Emo Shingu and the others. When Emo Shingu and the others saw Xiao Changtian standing in front of them, their hearts were in turmoil. "Due to my negligence just now, I let such a person in. Senior won't chase us away, right?" It was all that guy's fault. He pretended to knock on the door, and then suddenly kicked in. If there was a chance, he would definitely capture him and beat him up. At this moment, Emo Shingu and the other three walked up to Xiao Changtian and said slowly, "Senior, I'm sorry. We didn't take care of the courtyard properly. But don't worry. We promise that this won't happen again." After Emo Shingu finished speaking, Gan Tianlei hurriedly added, "Don't do it again." Xiao Changtian looked at them apologizing to him and said, "It's okay. People always make mistakes. Just be careful next time." When Gan Tianlei and the other three heard that Xiao Changtian didn't chase them away, their faces were filled with joy. At that moment, he secretly said in his heart that he would definitely not let a fly in the future. Then, Xiao Changtian walked into his room. After Xiao Changtian left, Emo Shingu and the others looked at each other and saw the courtyard outside. At this moment, Chu Yuanshan had just stood up from the ground. There was still blood at the corner of his mouth. Xiao Changtian's punch just now had almost caused his qi and blood to flow in reverse. No wonder he could take the Iron Eater as a mount. He had some skills. Chu Yuanshan stood up and planned to leave. After being punched by Xiao Changtian, he knew that he was no match for Xiao Changtian. As a beast master, if he didn't have his own mount, his strength would be greatly reduced. However, just as he took a few steps forward, he saw a few shadows in front of him. He turned around and saw Emo Shingu and the others smiling at him. If he couldn't beat that person just now, how could he not beat a few Desheng stage cultivators? Chu Yuanshan looked at the 4 people behind him and couldn't help but be angry. He wanted to vent his anger from being beaten up on them. Form the formation. However, before Chu Yuanshan could make a move, Emo Shingu's voice rang in everyone's ears. The array instantly trapped Chu Yuanshan. Chu Yuanshan smiled contemptuously. Just as he was about to break the array, he realized that he could not mobilize the true essence in his body at all. What was going on? Before Chu Yuanshan could figure out what was going on, Emo Shingu kicked him to the ground. You're the best at pretending, aren't you? You raised your hand in the air and kicked the door, right? You're the best. Why don't you become an actress? Why are you here to harm us? Xing Tianzi, who was beside him, was also cursing and stomping on Chu Yuanshan. Aha! Chu Yuanshan kept screaming under the trampling of the 4 people. In the end, he really couldn't stand it anymore and couldn't help but explain. I really wanted to knock on the door at first. Chu Yuanshan didn't care about the iron-eating beast, or the fact that he couldn't use his Zhen Yuan. He just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. As the saying went, there was hope as long as there was life. If this continued, he would really be trampled to death. However, just as Chu Yuanshan finished speaking, Gan Tianlei stepped on him again. Keep pretending. You're the best at pretending. In the air, the wails of the Chu Yuanshan sounded again. Chapter 248. Chapter 248. Brother Wushuang is the man who will. Chapter 248. Brother Wushuang is the man who will become the master of the divine court. 1. In the sky above the northern barren state, 2 streaks of light flew past. Brother Wushuang, have you found the whereabouts of that master of the divine court? Neilin Yin leaned into Li Wushuang's embrace as she raised her head and smiled at her. Hearing Neilin Yan's numbing voice, Li Wushuang's spirits were lifted, and the strength in her arms around Neilin Yin increased. Treasure, it'll be soon. I feel that I'll be able to find the location of the Lord of the Divine Court soon. When he had helped the black-cloaked deity emperor deliver that stone to deity king Profound Jade, he had been instigated by Neilin Yen to be extra careful. The aura on the stone was preserved through a secret technique. With the help of the aura on the stone and the words of the black-robed divine emperor's phantom, he combined it with his own search method. He had determined that the aura of the Lord of the Divine Court was on the northern barren continent. However, with his current strength, he could not detect the exact location. However, with his strength as a god king, how long would it take for him to search the entire northern barren continent? Hearing Li Wushuang's words, Neilin Yan's eyes flashed with disappointment. It had been a few days since they left the mystic Jade Divine Hall. They did not expect that they still could not confirm the exact location after such a long time. When he found a stronger cultivator, he would definitely kick him away. With this thought in mind, Neilin Yan still used her hand to stroke her hair, and said to Li Wushuang flatteringly, as expected of Brother Wushuang, he is about to find the position of the Lord of the Divine Court. 1 a.m. looking forward to the day when Brother Wushuang becomes the ruler of the divine world. Hearing Neilin Yan's words, Li Wushuang also felt like she was floating on air, and a smile unconsciously appeared on her face. The image of him sitting on the dragon throne in the divine court's main hall with Neilin Yan in his left hand, and a little handmaiden in his right started to appear in his mind. He was awake and in control of the world, drunk on the knees of a beauty. Neilin Yan, who was in his arms, saw Li Wushuang's silly smile, and a trace of disgust flashed across her eyes. Following that, Nailin Yen saw a horned fur-clad male below them. In her perception, she actually could not see through the strength of this fur-clad man. After plundering Divine Lord treasures to increase his cultivation, such a situation was not common, especially in the North Barren state. After thinking for a while, Nailin Yen patted Li Wushuang's chest and pointed at the beast-robed man below. "Brother Wushuang, the person below looks so strange. Shall we go down and take a look?" Li Wushuang was already in a good mood, and when she heard Nailin Yan's sweet voice, she smacked her cheek and said, "All right, Bao, whatever you say." Casually sweeping his gaze over the figure below, he didn't probe too much before hugging Nailin Yen and turning into a stream of light as he flew down. On a small path in the forest, Chu Yuanshan covered his face with a bottle of ointment in his hand and kept applying it to his face. Under the punches and kicks of Gan Tianlei and the other three, Chu Yuanshan passed out in a short while. When he woke up, he found himself in a forest outside Dayang town. There were also a few birds chirping on his body. After waving his hand to chase away the little bird on his body, he planned to return to the divine world to find his old friends, and then come back for revenge. The strength of Gan Tianlei and the others was too strange in Chu Yuanshan's eyes. Normally, he only needed to activate the true essence in his body to heal these superficial injuries. However, Gan Tianlei and the others were too strange. Not only could their injuries not be repaired with true essence, but they would also constantly feel pain. It was just like a mortal suffering from the pain of a woman. He could only let it slowly heal. Presumably, they were also the disciples of the owner of the courtyard. They cultivated the same cultivation technique to hide their strength. Hiss! With this thought in mind, Chu Yuanshan's palm that was touching the ointment accidentally touched the sore spot on his cheek. He could not help but let out a cry. Then, Li Wushuang and Nailin Yen appeared in front of Chu Yuanshan. Nailin Yen had originally felt that Chu Yuanshan was not ordinary, and the moment she landed, she could not help but size him up. Seeing Chu Yuanshan's pig liver head, he couldn't help but say to Li Wushuang, "Brother Wushuang, look at him." Following that, Nailin Yen covered her mouth and laughed. Seeing Nailin Yen covering her mouth and laughing, Li Wushuang also turned to look at Chu Yuanshan. Seeing his pig liver face, she covered her stomach with her hands and laughed. Chu Yuanshan saw Li Wushuang and Nailin Yen laughing at him, and was furious. He had already suffered a lot in Xiao Changtian's courtyard, and now there were two people mocking him. He was about to attack Li Wushuang and the others. When Nailin Yen saw Chu Yuanshan rushing towards them, she also said mockingly, "You pig liver face want to sneak attack Brother Wushuang? Do you know that Brother Wushuang is going to become the Lord of the Divine Court?" Hearing Nailin Yan's words, Li Wushuang patted her chest and looked at Chu Yuanshan with disdain. When Chu Yuanshan heard Nailin Yen mention the Lord of the Divine Court, his body also paused, and he stopped in front of them. His expression was a little gloomy as he slowly said to them, "Lord of the Divine Court." Seeing that Chu Yuanshan had a reaction, Nailin Yan's mouth flashed with a smile of success. He then said to Li Wushuang, "Big brother Wushuang, I'm sorry for letting it slip just now." As he spoke, Nailin Yen lowered his head and placed his hands on his chest, as if he had done something wrong. Facing Nailin Yen like this, how could Li Wushuang blame him? She stroked Nailin Yan's little head and slowly said, "Baby, it's okay. One don't blame you." When Chu Yuanshan saw Li Wushuang and the others ignoring him, his heart burned with rage. A powerful aura belonging to a god king erupted from his body. A wave of air blew past her, and Li Wushuang realized that Chu Yuanshan's cultivation was the same as hers, a god king. Nailin Yen also pretended to be frightened and hid in Li Wushuang's embrace. Feeling the trembling of the person in her arms, Li Wushuang released her god king aura. He comforted Nailin Yen who was in his arms. "Bao, don't be afraid. I'm here." Then he scolded Chu Yuanshan. "What's wrong with you? Are you courting death?" Although Wushuang found out that Chu Yuan was a god king, she also noticed his injuries. Chu Yuanshan didn't waste any time, and threw a punch at her. Not only did this wretched couple not put him in their eyes, but they also knew information about the Lord of the Divine Court. He had to get rid of them. Even though he was injured, Chu Yuanshan could tell that God King Li Wuxuang's foundation wasn't stable. It was obvious that she had relied on external forces to improve herself. Seeing Chu Yuanshan take the initiative to punch her, Li Wuxuang also let go of Nailin Yin in her arms and threw a punch at him. Chapter 249, Chapter 249. Why didn't I think of it before? How stupid. Chapter 249. Why didn't I think of it before? How stupid. 1. Bang. When the fists collided, a wave of air spread out from the two of them. Then the two of them took a few steps back. Slowly stabilizing herself, Li Wuxuang looked at Chu Yuanshan in shock. He had thought that Chu Yuanshan was injured, and that he would be able to kill him easily. He did not expect that the power transmitted from Chu Yuanshan's fist was actually on par with his. On the other side, Chu Yuanshan also stabilized his body and waved his fist. His face was filled with dissatisfaction. If it wasn't for his injuries, he would have killed Li Wuxuang long ago. Nailin Yin looked at Chu Yuanshan from the side, her eyes flickering. As expected, he was not mistaken. This fur-clad man was also an expert. For a moment, Nailin Yin suddenly had a new idea in her heart. Seeing that the two of them were about to meet again, Nailin Yin quickly walked over and pulled Li Wuxuang back. She slowly said to Chu Yuanshan, "Fellow Taoist, since we're all here for the master of the Divine Court, why don't we cooperate?" Then, he turned to Li Wuxuang and said with a smile, "Brother Wuxuang, are you?" After Li Wuxuang had not confirmed the position of the Lord of the Divine Court for a few days, Nailin Yin knew that if she relied on Li Wuxuang's words, who knew how long she would have to wait? She just happened to meet Chu Yuanshan. With Nailin Yan's eyesight, she could tell that Chu Yuanshan's strength was above Li Wuxuang's. With his help, the chances of finding the Lord of the Divine Court would be greater. It didn't matter to her who would obtain the fate of the Lord of the Divine Court. With her beauty, she was confident that she could take down whoever obtained the fate of the Lord of the Divine Court. Seeing Nailin Yan's coquettish look, Li Wuxuang couldn't think any further and quickly said, "Treasure, I'll listen to you." Following that, he pulled Nailin Yin into his embrace. After Chu Yuanshan heard Nailin Yin's words, he stopped his attack. He was also injured now and was not suitable to fight. Moreover, these two people might know some information that he did not know. When his strength recovered, wouldn't he still have the final say? Thinking of this, Chu Yuanshan said to Nailin Yin and the others, "Since we want to cooperate, we have to show some sincerity." Hearing that Chu Yuanshan was willing to cooperate, Nailin Yan's face revealed a faint smile as she slowly said to him, "Fellow Taoist, why don't we share information?" Then, after some discussion, the three of them formed a temporary team with their own thoughts. In the North Moon Empire's Eastern Palace, Jiang Beichen paced back and forth anxiously in his room. Ever since Xiao Changtian told him to find a water source that would never freeze, he had mobilized all the power he could to search for it. In fact, he had basically toured the entire continent. After a round of searching, they had not even heard of such a water source, let alone seen it. Moreover, he heard that eldest senior brother, second senior brother, and the others had already found the ingredients that master had instructed them to eat. At that time, if he was the only one who could not find it, his master would be very disappointed in him. At the thought of this, Jiang Beichen could not help but feel melancholic again. He sat on the chair beside the table and covered his forehead with his hand. "Your Highness, Imperial Preceptor requests an audience." At that moment, an armored soldier appeared at the door of Jiang Beichen's room and reported to him. Hearing the soldier's report, Jiang Beichen stood up from his chair and said to the soldier at the door, "The State Preceptor is here. Please welcome him." The State Preceptor was the only one among the people he had sent out who had not reported to him. The State Preceptor had only returned after such a long time. Perhaps he had news of the water source. Soon, the State Preceptor was led to Jiang Beichen's room by the soldiers. As soon as the State Preceptor entered Jiang Beichen's room, Jiang Beichen said to him. State Preceptor, how is it? Is there any news about the water source? When the imperial advisor heard Jiang Beichen's words, he hurriedly bowed to him and said, Your Highness, I'm useless. Before the state preceptor could finish speaking, he saw Jiang Beichen wave his hand at him, indicating for him to leave. Jiang Beichen had already heard such words countless times. Previously, those who had not been found had all reported to him in this manner. Thinking about it, it made sense. He had personally visited various places on the continent, but he did not find anything. Could it be that the state preceptor had discovered something? At that thought, Jiang Beichen sat back down in his chair in disappointment. Seeing Jiang Beichen's disappointed expression, the state preceptor still said to him, Your Highness, although I didn't find a water source, one did find some information about it. Chun, who was sitting on the chair, felt energized after hearing the state preceptor's words. He said excitedly, State Preceptor, why didn't you tell me earlier that there was a water source? Tell me quickly, where is the water source? When the imperial advisor heard Jiang Beichen's words, he was also stunned. I was just about to say that you didn't want me to say it. Then, she continued to say to Jiang Beichen, Your Highness, according to my investigation, the water source you want to find is not available on the Tianyuan continent. If you want it, you should go up there. Jiang Beichen saw the state preceptor's finger pointing at the ceiling. When he looked up, there was nothing on the ceiling. Then, he understood, and said to the imperial advisor with a smile, Imperial Preceptor, you are indeed the imperial preceptor of my North Moon Empire. Why didn't I think of this before? He had been focusing on the Tianyuan continent all this time, and had forgotten how his master's food could be ordinary. The ingredients for such a thing must be in the divine world. Why didn't he think of it before? Then, Jiang Beichen walked out of the room, and flew into the sky like a streak of light. A sword light streaked across, and a crack appeared in the barrier between the two worlds. Jiang Beichen passed through the crack and stopped in midair looking down. When he saw a crowded town, he turned into a stream of light and flew down. Whoosh! Jiang Beichen's figure landed on a street. He saw the pedestrians on the street running toward the city gate with bags on their backs. Noticing the unusual behavior of these people, Jiang Beichen grabbed a passerby beside him and said, Uncle, did something happen in the city? Why does everyone look like they're fleeing? The passerby saw Jiang Beichen holding him back. He was young and had an imposing appearance. Thinking that such a young life could be lost here, he said to Jiang Beichen, Young man, you just came here not long ago. One advise you not to stay here and leave quickly. Hearing the passerby's words, Jiang Beichen continued asking, Uncle, what happened here? When the passerby heard Jiang Beichen's words, he also sighed and slowly said, The Luo Water Empire and the Blood Sickle Empire are at war. Now that the Blood Sickle Empire's army is almost at the city, if you're still in Luo Water City, you'll become a dead soul under their blades sooner or later. Chapter 250 Luo Shui Dynasty 1 Chapter 250 Luo Shui Dynasty 1 Jiang Beichen finally understood what was going on after hearing the old man's words. The city he was in was the capital of the Luo Water Dynasty, Luo Water City. On the other hand, the Luo Water Dynasty had been defeated in the war with the Blood Sickle Dynasty. Now they were in a precarious situation, and could be destroyed at any time. When the old man saw that Jiang Beichen did not seem to be moved after hearing his words, he said kindly again, Young man, listen to my advice and leave quickly. Hearing the old man's words, Jiang Beichen smiled at him and said, Thank you, uncle, but I still need to find an unfreezing water source. After giving the old man a tight hug, Jiang Beichen turned to leave. Sigh, why are you still thinking about the sacred artifact of the Luo Water Dynasty? When the old man heard that Jiang Beichen did not listen to his words, and instead wanted to find the holy relic of the Luo River Dynasty, he could not help but sigh. The Blood Sickle Empire had attacked their Luo Water Empire because they had taken a fancy to their sacred item, Luo Water. The Luo River was actually an extremely special spirit vein, Not only would it never freeze, but one could also cultivate at a rapid pace by cultivating beside it. Jiang Beichen had only taken a few steps when he heard the old man's words. In a flash, he reappeared in front of the old man and said, "Uncle, is the holy item that you just used that kind of water that never freezes?" The old man saw Jiang Beichen come up to him again and ask him about the sacred object. She was even more certain that he was the kind of person who would risk his life for Luo Shui. So she said to him, "Young man, let me remind you again. Although Luo River is good, your life is more important." In the past, its son had also been ambitious and wanted to fight for the sacred relic of the Luo River dynasty. In the end, he ended up with nothing. Jiang Beichen looked to be about the same age as its son, and it really did not want Jiang Beichen to repeat its son's mistakes. Jiang Beichen was delighted to receive the old man's confirmation. After thanking the old man, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared. The old man looked in the direction Jiang Beichen left and shook his head. He could also tell that Jiang Beichen was a cultivator, but so what? Thinking back, his son was still a high-level deity, but in the end, he lost both his life and wealth. Young people nowadays really don't care about their lives. The old man seemed to have already seen Jiang Beichen's fate. He sighed and turned to walk towards the city gate. At the same time, in the palace hall of the Luo Water dynasty, the ministers from the past had already left. After knowing that the Blood Sickle dynasty was about to attack the city, those ministers had all fled for their lives. In the entire palace, there was only the dragon throne at the top. The emperor of Luo Shui sat on the ground. His face was pale, and he looked as if he had already accepted his fate. He was waiting for the Blood Sickle Empire to end his life. He muttered, No, everything is gone." Below them were a group of princes and princesses. Amidst the cries of the palace, the first prince stood out and said to the emperor of Luo Shui, "Father, the Blood Sickle Empire is going too far. We can't sit still and wait for death. For example, let's go out and fight to the death with them." Before the emperor of Luo Shui could reply, the second prince mocked him. "Fight to the death? What are you going to use to fight to the death with others? If you had listened to my suggestion and offered Luo Shui with both hands, you wouldn't have ended up like this today. Look now, not only did Luo River not survive, even the country was about to be destroyed." When the first prince heard his second brother's words, he was also furious. He pointed at him and said, You are simply incurable." At the same time, a hearty voice rang out in the hall. "What did you just say? Luo Shui is gone?" As the voice fell, everyone looked in the direction of the sound. The palace's main doors had been opened at some point, and Jiang Beichen's figure walked in. "Blood Sickle Empire, my Luo Water Empire is irreconcilable with you." When the eldest prince saw Jiang Beichen walk in, he thought that the Blood Sickle Empire had attacked. He raised the sword at his waist and charged at Jiang Beichen. The sword slashed through the air, and a sword light slashed towards Jiang Beichen. Jiang Beichen looked at the oncoming sword light and appeared in front of the first prince in a flash. With a wave of his finger, the first prince's figure flew out and crashed into a pillar in the hall. "Playing with the sword in front of me?" Jiang Beichen glanced at the first prince and said slowly. Then, he came to the second prince's side. Before he could speak, the second prince said in fear, don't kill me. One can give you anything you want. One know where the key to the national treasury is. And there's also a beauty. Oh right, this is my third sister." As he spoke, the second prince pointed to a crying princess. Seeing the second prince's ugly state, Jiang Beichen's face was filled with disgust as well. He immediately slapped the second prince. He was also born in a dynasty. However, when he saw the second prince betray his family and the country in order to survive, Jiang Beichen still slapped him to death. At this moment, the first prince slowly got up from the ground and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He had clearly sensed the powerful sword intent from Jiang Beichen's attack just now. Moreover, he was using his finger as a sword. This meant that this person's understanding of the sword was far above his. Moreover, he was a sword master, the kind of sword master However, if he dared to do anything inappropriate to his royal sister, he would still fight to the death. After slapping the second prince to death, Jiang Beichen appeared before the first prince and said, "You just said that Luo Shui disappeared. What's going on?" When the first prince heard Jiang Beichen's words, he smiled slowly and said, "What's going on? Don't you know? Luo Shui was taken away by your blood sickle empire a few days ago." When Jiang Beichen heard the first prince's words, he realized that the first prince had mistaken him for someone from the blood sickle dynasty. He could not help but say, "I'm not from the blood sickle empire." Then he turned around and was about to leave. Since Luo water had already been seized by the blood sickle empire, he had to make a trip to the blood sickle empire. When the first prince heard Jiang Beichen's words, he understood that he had misunderstood. He hurriedly knelt down and said to Jiang Beichen, "Senior, the Luo Shui dynasty is in deep trouble now. Please help. After this is done, Luo Tian is willing to do anything to repay you." As he spoke, Luo Tian kowtowed a few times in Jiang Beichen's direction. Although he didn't know Jiang Beichen's true strength, based on the sword intent he just revealed, he was still able to use the sword technique. He believed that as long as Jiang Beichen was willing to make a move, he would definitely be able to defeat the Blood Sickle Empire. After hearing Luo Tian's words, Jiang Beichen's departing figure paused. Chapter 251, Chapter 251: One think it's better to ask the ancestor. Chapter 251: One think it's better to ask the ancestor. Seeing Jiang Beichen stop, the other princes and princesses also seemed to have grasped onto hope and knelt down in front of Jiang Beichen. Jiang Beichen slowly turned around and looked at the group of princes and princesses kneeling on the ground. For a moment he sighed. Although it was normal for dynasties to change, if the North Moon dynasty encountered such a disaster one day, he would also ask for help from others. Moreover, his master often taught him to be a good person. He had to be kind. At that thought, Jiang Beichen walked up to Luo Tian and helped him up from the ground. He said slowly, "Get up. I can help you, but after this is done, I want to take Luo water." Jiang Beichen did not hide the purpose of his trip and spoke directly. If he helped them defeat the Blood Sickle Empire, he would have to argue with them over Luo Shui. When Luo Tian heard Jiang Beichen's words, he said to him without hesitation, "Senior, don't worry. We know that a man is innocent, but he will be punished if he holds a treasure. As long as Senior can save the Luo Shui dynasty, Senior Luo Shui can take it if you want it." Luo Tian knew how important Luo Shui was to the Luo Shui dynasty, but he understood now. With their strength, they could not protect Luo Shui at all. Instead, he would constantly damage his own strength under a series of conspiracies and counterattacks. Therefore, not only did the Luo Shui River not have the effect of making the country rich and the people strong, it was a disaster. Jiang Beichen nodded when he saw Luo Tian agreeing to his request. He said, "Luo Tian, how is the Blood Sickle Empire's strength and the current situation?" As a newcomer, Jiang Beichen knew nothing about the Blood Sickle dynasty. When he heard Jiang Beichen talking about the war, Luo Tian quickly said to him, "The Blood Sickle Empire's king has the strength of a god king. Not only is his strength heaven-defying, but his methods are also strange. After absorbing the enemy's blood, it can reflect the damage it receives to the other party." Hearing Luo Tian's words, Jiang Beichen could not help but become interested in the Blood Sickle dynasty's methods. This kind of cultivation technique and method sounded more like the style of the demon race that he had heard of. After taking a few steps in front of Luo Tian, she continued, "If that's the case, won't they also die?" Luo Tian shook his head and said to Jiang Beichen, "No, everyone in the Blood Sickle Empire cultivates a technique called the Undying Body. Although they can't recover immediately, their bodies will recover after a few days." The reason why the Luo Shui dynasty was quickly defeated in the war was that they could not find a way to deal with their cultivation techniques. Hearing Luo Tian's words, Jiang Beichen placed his hand on his chin and pondered for a while before saying, "I understand. Let's set off now." According to Luo Tian, they would need to return for a few days before they could recover. He could just kill them and not let them return. Luo Tian was also stunned when he heard Jiang Beichen's words. Then, he said to Jiang Beichen happily, "Senior, please follow me." Originally, he thought that Jiang Beichen had agreed to help the Luoshui dynasty because he needed to plan. However, when he heard Jiang Beichen say that he was going to the battlefield, he thought that Senior had already found a way to deal with it. At the same time, beside a pillar in the palace, a maid watched Jiang Beichen and Luo Tian leave the palace. A blood-red light flashed in her eyes. Soon, the maid followed Luo Tian and the others out of the palace and came to a garden. After looking around and making sure that there was no one around, the maid slowly cast her spell. The blood-red vital essence on her hands slowly rose like steam, and soon formed a blood-red light in front of the maid. After muttering, the blood-red light in front of him became even more condensed. Whoosh! The maid let out a breath, and the light flew up into the sky. On the other side of the immeasurable immortal continent, in a blood-red palace. This was a magnificent hall. At this moment, an old man in a blood-red robe sat in the hall. Below him, there were also old men dressed in blood-red robes like him. However, the color of the old man's robe was brighter. At this moment, the atmosphere in the hall was oppressive. After a moment of silence, the old man slowly opened his mouth and said, "According to our scouts, there seems to be an accident at the Luo Shui dynasty. An expert helped them. It is said that he defeated Luo Tian in one move. Everyone here is a pillar of the Blood Sickle dynasty." As soon as the Blood Sickle dynasty king finished speaking, it caused a commotion in the hall. Luo Tian is a divine lord. That person was able to defeat him in one strike. A Blood Sickle dynasty official said slowly to the person beside him. The moment the Blood Sickle dynasty official finished speaking, someone immediately retorted. "So what if he's a godly king? Isn't the king of the Luo Water dynasty also a godly king?" In the end, he was still confused by us. He can only wait for death in his Luo Water Imperial Palace now. The reason that the king of Luo Shui was able to lose his mind was the result of our many years of planning. Now that a godly king of unknown origin has appeared, how can he be so easy to deal with? Then you mean that we should retreat? We're almost at the Luo Water capital. Are we going to retreat because of a godly king? All kinds of voices were arguing in the audience. The Blood Sickle dynasty king on the dragon throne was also holding his forehead with a headache. With a wave of his sleeve, he said to the people below, All right, stop arguing. I have heard your opinions." He had originally wanted them to give him some advice, but he did not expect them to make things even more troublesome. After hearing the Blood Sickle dynasty king's words, everyone present shut their mouths. "State Preceptor, do you have any opinions?" The Blood Sickle dynasty king spoke after the hall returned to silence. At this moment, an old man with long eyebrows walked out from among the ministers and said to the Blood Sickle dynasty king, "Your Majesty, since things have come to this, I think it's better to ask the ancestor." Hearing the imperial advisor's words, the Blood Sickle dynasty king looked up at him. It was obvious that the imperial advisor's answer was what he was thinking. Whispers broke out among the ministers. Following that, the Blood Sickle dynasty king said to the other officials, "What do you think about inviting the ancestor?" This time, the Blood Sickle dynasty ministers did not have any disagreement. They said in unison, "We agree with the state preceptor." Chapter 252, Patriarch Blood Sickle 1. Chapter 252, Patriarch Blood Sickle 1. On the Blood Sickle Empire Square, a group of officials and elders of the Blood Sickle Empire stood densely packed. This was the place they used for important events. At this moment, the ministers and elders were looking piously at a statue in the center of the square. It was the Blood Sickle Empire's ancestor. The king of the Blood Sickle dynasty stood in front of the elders and ministers. He first bowed to the statue in the middle of the square. Then, the blood-red vital essence in his hand continued to gather. he said to the elders and ministers behind him. All ministers, listen up. Follow me to welcome the ancestor. As soon as the Blood-Sickle Dynasty king finished speaking, the elders and ministers behind him gathered the quintessential essence in their bodies. Following that, streaks of blood-red vital essence gathered at the blood-red gem on the chest of the statue. The blood-red primeval essence flowed into the ruby, and the ruby emitted a dazzling light. Then, a thick pillar of air shot into the sky, causing a series of thunder in the air. Welcome, Patriarch! Looking at the change in the sky, the Blood-Sickle Dynasty king led the ministers and elders behind him to kneel down and respectfully said to the sky. After the sound of thunder, a powerful aura burst out from the sky. Duan Xiong, is there something important that you want to wake me up at this time? A voice slowly sounded from the sky. Then the Blood-Sickle Dynasty king stood up and said to the sky, Ancestor, something happened in the Luo Water Dynasty. According to the scouts, the Luo Water Dynasty has another god king. Oh, there's such a thing. Patriarch Blood-Sickle's surprised voice slowly sounded from the sky. Now he understood why Duan Xiong and the others wanted to wake him up. In the entire Blood-Sickle Empire, there was only one godly king powerhouse, Duan Xiong. Although due to the cultivation technique, their Blood-Sickle Empire's combat strength was stronger than other countries. However, Duan Xiong hadn't cultivated his undying body to the great success stage. In a situation where the other party's background was unknown, it was hard to say who would win. Duan Xiong stared blankly at the sky, waiting for Patriarch Blood-Sickle's reply. Then a ray of light flew down from the sky. The light went straight into Duan Xiong's glabella and turned into information in his mind. After Duan Xiong digested Patriarch Blood-Sickle's information in his mind, he was first shocked, then his face was filled with ecstasy. It was because this piece of information was too exciting. Before Patriarch Blood-Sickle went into seclusion, he was already at the peak of the godly king realm. After obtaining Luo Shui a while ago, with the help of Luo Shui, the ancestor had already advanced to the God Emperor realm. Now he was stabilizing himself, and had even cultivated his undying body to the great success realm. After the ancestor stabilized, what use would the external help from the Luo Water Dynasty be? Just as Duan Xiong was feeling ecstatic, the voice of the Blood-Sickle ancestor rang out once again. Duan Xiong, you don't need me to teach you what to do, right? When Duan Xiong heard what Patriarch Blood-Sickle said, he hurriedly bowed and said, Forefather, don't worry. Duan Xiong will definitely do a good job. It's good that you know what to do. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me again. Patriarch Blood-Sickle's voice sounded from the sky again. At the same time, a triangular jade pendant fell in front of Duan Xiong. When Duan Xiong picked up the jade pendant, Patriarch Blood-Sickle's voice sounded in his mind again. Duan Xiong, this is the best opportunity for our Blood-Sickle Empire to dominate the entire boundless immortal continent. If you encounter any irresistible danger, crush the jade pendant one gave you. I, the ancestor, will appear to help you. Along with this voice, the thunder in the sky also slowly dissipated, as if it had never appeared. After Patriarch Blood-Sickle's voice disappeared, Duan Xiong looked excitedly at the triangular jade pendant in his hand. He could feel that the day when their Blood-Sickle Empire dominated the boundless immortal continent was not far away. The boundless immortal continent was different from the other immortal continents. In the other immortal continents, a godly king was the king. Due to the birth of a divine item, like the Luo water in the immeasurable immortal continent, countless godly kings treated the immeasurable immortal continent as a treasure trove. Previously, a bloody storm had erupted here. Countless godly monarchs had fought for the territory of the boundless immortal continent. In the end, only the Blood-Sickle Dynasty and the native Luo Shui dynasty settled down on this land. The other god kings would either leave after failing, or they would fall into eternal slumber. As for factions without godly monarchs, they could only rely on the Blood-Sickle Empire and the Luo Water Empire. For hundreds of years, both sides have been fighting each other openly and covertly, both wanting to become the sole overlord of the immeasurable immortal continent. However, with the success of the Blood Sickle dynasty's plan against the king of Luo Shui, and the ancestors' advancement to the God-Emperor realm, the Blood Sickle dynasty had no choice but to give up. In Duan Xiong's eyes, their Blood Sickle dynasty was already certain of victory. Destroying the Luo Water dynasty was only a matter of time. After he carefully hung the triangular jade pendant on his neck, Duan Xiong saw the ministers and elders of the Blood Sickle Empire looking at him. In their eyes, the series of interactions between Duan Xiong and Patriarch Blood Sickle just now was just a series of thunderclaps in the sky, and something falling from time to time. They did not know anything else. At this moment, the imperial advisor walked out from the crowd and said respectfully to Duan Xiong, "Your Majesty, what does the ancestor mean?" After Duan Xiong hung up the triangular jade pendant, he no longer had the melancholy he had in the hall. Hearing the imperial advisor's words, he said to everyone, "I have good news for everyone. The ancestor has already broken through to the God-Emperor realm. As for the Luo Water Empire, the ancestor's intention is to do it, and it has to be done beautifully. We have to let the entire boundless immortal continent know the strength of our Blood Sickle Empire. Understand? Ancestor has advanced to the God-Emperor realm. Ancestor has advanced to the God-Emperor realm." Duan Xiong's words were like a huge rock thrown into the water, immediately causing a commotion in the crowd. In this era where the God-Emperor realm and the God-Emperor realm did not appear, if their ancestor advanced to the God-Emperor realm, they would be able to do so. Then, not only would the Blood Sickle Empire become the sole overlord of the boundless immortal continent, but they could even expand and occupy other immortal continents. Duan Xiong looked at the excited expressions of the elders and ministers below and slowly said, "All the soldiers of the Blood Sickle Empire, listen up. I will personally go to the Luo Water Empire in a few days and use the blood of the Luo Water Empire to congratulate the ancestor for breaking through to the God-Emperor realm." Originally, after hearing the news that the ancestor was about to advance to the God-Emperor realm, the soldiers of the Blood Sickle Empire were very excited. Now, with Duan Xiong's impassioned words, the bloodlust in the hearts of these soldiers was ignited. "Fuck, one can't wait to slaughter Luo Water City. Hehe. I heard that the concubines of the king of the Luo River are very beautiful. When the time comes, no one can snatch them from me. Hehe. And his princesses, ha ha." For a moment, the bloodthirsty voices of the Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers resounded in the Blood Sickle Dynasty square. Chapter 253, Chapter 253, Bloody Battle at the Pass 1. Chapter 253, Bloody Battle at the Pass 1. Under the control of the Blood Sickle Empire, the news that the Blood Sickle Patriarch was about to advance to the God-Emperor realm quickly spread throughout the boundless immortal continent. "Have you heard? The Patriarch of the Blood Sickle Dynasty is about to break through to the God-Emperor realm. The Luo Shui dynasty is probably doomed this time." "Who says so?" The Luo Water Empire was about to be beaten to their doorstep, and now the Blood Sickle Empire has a God-Emperor. Yes. One heard that the king of Luo Shui is still unconscious and can't handle state affairs at all. Bullsh *T. I heard that he was clearly addicted to the beauty of the harem and could not get out of bed. As the Blood Sickle dynasty's king, Duan Xiong, personally went to the Luo Water dynasty, the news of Patriarch Blood Sickle breaking through to the God-Emperor realm spread. Along the way, the immortal cultivators who saw the Blood Sickle dynasty army discussed in low voices. At this moment, at a pass in the Luo Shui dynasty, a mighty figure stood on the city wall, constantly instructing the soldiers of the Luo River dynasty to build fortifications on the pass. This was the last pass of the Luo Water dynasty. As long as this place was broken through by the Blood Sickle dynasty, the Blood Sickle dynasty's army would be able to march straight into the Luo Water dynasty's capital, Luo Water City. Luo Shanha stood at the city gate and looked into the distance, constantly anticipating the onslaught of the Blood Sickle dynasty. He was the #1 general of the Luo Shui dynasty. He had grown up in various border passes and was responsible for guarding the various passes of the Luo Shui dynasty. At this moment, a soldier from the Luo Shui dynasty walked over and said to Luo Shanha, "General, the Blood Sickle Empire has already surrounded us. The news cannot be spread." Hearing the soldier's words, Luo Shanha could not help but smash the wall beside him. "Damn it!" Luo Shanha said angrily. The news that Patriarch Blood Sickle was about to break through to the God Emperor realm had already spread all over the world. Luo Shanha also wanted the news to reach to the Luo Shui royal palace in time, so that Luo Shui city could make preparations in advance. However, he did not expect that the Blood Sickle Empire would actually cut off his connection with Luo Water City. In this way, the news could only reach him. Not only could it increase the mental pressure on his soldiers, but it could also increase the pressure on his soldiers. After breaking through his pass, he could also take down Luo Water City when it was caught off guard. Then the soldier next to him said to Luo Shanha, "General, look, the Blood Sickle Empire is attacking." Upon hearing the soldier's words, Luo Shanha also saw the Blood Sickle dynasty soldiers slowly walking towards him. "Don't panic. Listen to my command and activate the defensive formation." Under Luo Shanha's orders, the soldiers of the Luo Shui dynasty got busy. A huge light screen protected the entrance of the pass. The Blood Sickle Empire soldiers advanced slowly and stopped at the entrance of the pass. The imperial advisor of the Blood Sickle Empire flew into the air and shouted at Luo Shanha. Luo Shanha, stop struggling. If you surrender obediently, one might be able to leave you with an intact corpse. Before this, it had always been the imperial advisor leading the army to attack this pass. He and Luo Shanha were both at the peak stage of the Divine Lord realm. The two sides had fought back and forth previously, and neither of them could take advantage of the other. However, things were different now. Duan Xiong was personally fighting. With his godly king's strength, Luo Shanha had no chance of resisting. As soon as the imperial advisor finished speaking, Luo Shanha shouted at him, "Duan Xiolin, if you want to fight, then fight. Why are you talking so much? Stubborn." Before Duan Xiolin could reply to Luo Shanha, another voice rang out in the air. Duan Xiong's figure slowly appeared beside Duan Xiolin, and he slowly said to her, "Imperial Preceptor, leave this to the king." After Duan Xiolin heard Duan Xiong's words, she bowed respectfully to him and returned to the army. Duan Xiong expressionlessly looked at the light screen in front of him. He slowly raised his arm. An ray of light shot out from his fingertips. Whoosh! The light fiercely hit the light screen, and the Luo Water Dynasty soldiers guarding the pass immediately felt a tremor, as if the light screen would shatter at any moment. Calm down, don't panic." Luo Shanha clutched his chest and shouted at the soldiers. As the center of the array, Luo Shanha had just received most of the power from Duan Xiong's attack. At this moment, the blood essence in his body was also tumbling. "You have some skills." Duan Xiong looked at Luo Shanha, who was still commanding the soldiers at the pass, and muttered to himself. Clearly, he had not expected that the light screen would not be shattered. "One wonder how many of my attacks you can block." Duan Xiong stared at Luo Shanha in the light screen, and an even more powerful light gathered at his fingertips. "Give me a break," Duan Xiong shouted, and the light shone on the light screen. This time no miracle happened. Under Duan Xiong's attack, the light curtain shattered as expected. The light screen shattered and Luo Shanha could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. There was no other way. The gap between a god king and a god monarch was not something that could be filled with a single array formation. Being able to withstand Duan Xiong's attack just now was already his limit. Duan Xiong looked at Luo Shanha expressionlessly and waved his arm behind him. "Kill them." Under Duan Xiong's signal, the Blood Sickle Empire soldiers let out a loud shout and attacked the pass. After witnessing Duan Xiong's strength, the soldiers of the Luo Water Dynasty were already fearful. Under the assault of the Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers, the situation was completely one-sided. Duan Xiong looked at the falling soldiers of the Luo Water Dynasty and waved at Duan Xiolin. Imperial Preceptor, record the situation below. After we take down the Luo Water Dynasty, distribute it to every corner of the boundless immortal continent. Let the entire immeasurable immortal continent know who is the true ruler of the immeasurable immortal continent. Understood. Duan Xiolin respectfully agreed upon hearing Duan Xiong's words. Then, he took out a stone from his pocket and slowly injected his true essence into it. The stone emitted a burst of light and recorded the battle below. This was the profound shadow stone. It could record all the places where its light shone. Soon, the Blood Sickle Empire soldiers reached the bottom of the pass. As long as they broke through the gate, they would be able to control this pass completely. Luo Shanhe looked at the Luo Shui dynasty soldiers, who were dying under the Blood Sickle dynasty's attacks, and his eyes turned red. After slowly standing up from the ground, he jumped in front of the gate of the pass and shouted to the remaining Luo Water Dynasty soldiers. Hold on, reinforcements are coming. Now he could only use this method to raise the morale of his soldiers. As he spoke, Luo Shanhe picked up a large blade and slashed at the Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers. Chapter 254 Chapter 254, The 10,000 Swords. Chapter 254, The 10,000 Swords. In the sky above the boundless immortal continent, two figures flew past. They were Jiang Beichen and Luo Tian, who had just come out of Luoshui city. As they flew in the air, they saw a soldier dressed in the Luoshui dynasty's uniform. Jiang Beichen and Luo Tian looked at each other and flew down. On a small path, a Luo Water Dynasty soldier's clothes were tattered, and there were still traces of blood. He was running forward. Then, he saw Jiang Beichen and Luo Tian landing in front of him. Seeing Luo Tian's clothes, the soldier immediately walked over and said weakly, "Your Highness, we finally meet." Luo Tian looked at the weak soldier and quickly went to support him. He said slowly, "What's going on? Why are you the only one here?" When the soldier heard Luo Tian's words, he sat on the ground and said weakly, "Your Royal Highness, General Luo asked me to go to the Imperial City to tell you that Duan Xiong has already gone out personally. Also the Blood Sickle Empire's elder." Before the soldier could finish his sentence, he fainted. Seeing the soldier faint halfway through his sentence, Luo Tian shook his body and said, "What do you think happened to the Blood Sickle Empire? Don't ask. He has many wounds on his body. It's already a miracle that he can make it this far." Jiang Beichen said slowly when he saw the soldier, Luo Tian Ziyao. Hearing Jiang Beichen's words, Luo Tian realized that the soldier was bleeding multiple times. Some of the wounds had not even healed before new wounds appeared. "Blood Sickle Empire, my Luo Water Empire will fight you to the death." Luo Tian shouted angrily when he couldn't sense the soldier's aura. Although the soldier didn't finish his sentence, the news of Duan Xiong personally going to war was still delivered. Luo Tian was no stranger to Duan Xiong. He was the king of the Blood Sickle dynasty and had the strength of a godly king. If he were to personally attack the pass, Luo Shanhe would not be able to hold on for long. At this moment, Jiang Beichen also walked to the soldier's side and checked his injuries. Is this the Blood Sickle Empire's method of reflecting damage? Many of the wounded parts of the soldier's body were protected by armor. The armor was not broken, and there were injuries on his body. This was indeed the first time Jiang Beichen had seen such a technique. Luo Tian nodded at Jiang Beichen. Yes, Senior, according to the information that this soldier just sent, I'm afraid that we won't be able to hold the pass for long. Let's hurry over." Jiang Beichen knew that Luo Tian was anxious, so he nodded at him and flew toward the pass again. At the gate, Luo Shanhe was covered in blood, and the blade in his hand was broken. His hand was pressed against the rock beside him, and his body was already a little unsteady. "Go kill him together." The Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers shouted when they saw Luo Shanhe's reaction. Before this, they had already lost several groups of people to Luo Shanhe. Seeing the Blood Sickle Empire soldiers attacking again, Luo Shanhe smiled. He picked up the broken saber in his hand and swung it for the last time. His body fell heavily to the ground. The saber beam flew past, and the blood-sickle dynasty soldiers fell to the ground. However, at the same time, the next wave of blood-sickle dynasty soldiers broke through the gate of the pass. Kill, charge in and flatten the blood-sickle empire. A blood-sickle dynasty soldier shouted in the crowd. Following that, a large group of blood-sickle dynasty soldiers rushed into the pass. As he shouted, two figures flew over from afar. Soon, Luo Tian and Jiang Beichen arrived above the battlefield. At this moment on the battlefield, the Luo Water Dynasty's army was defeated like a landslide. They were forced back by the Blood-Sickle Dynasty's massacre. Luo Tian looked at the battle below and clenched his fists. His eyes were filled with hatred as he looked at the Blood-Sickle Dynasty. He cupped his fists at Jiang Beichen and said slowly, "Senior, please help our Luo Water Dynasty." Jiang Beichen looked at the Blood-Sickle Dynasty army below and witnessed the methods Luo Tian had told him about. As expected, it reflected the damage. Then in a flash, he appeared in the sky above the army. He gathered the vital essence in his hands and placed his hands in front of his chest. Suddenly, a long sword formed by spiritual energy appeared beside Jiang Beichen. 10,000 swords. Jiang Beichen shouted and waved his arm downward. The flying swords beside him turned into streaks of light. Like thousands of arrows, they flew towards the Blood-Sickle Empire army. Aha! Wherever the flying sword passed, the Blood-Sickle Dynasty soldiers' screams rang out continuously. Then, their bodies turned into a bloody mist and exploded in midair. Jiang Beichen looked at the Blood-Sickle Dynasty soldiers, who were constantly exploding, and nodded in satisfaction. Just as he had expected, as long as he killed them forcefully, they would not be able to recover. When the Luo Shui Dynasty soldiers saw the Blood-Sickle Dynasty soldiers suddenly exploding behind them, they raised their heads and focused their gazes on Jiang Beichen in the sky. Then Luo Tian appeared beside Jiang Beichen. Seeing the Blood-Sickle Dynasty soldiers being slaughtered, he was also excited. He said to the Luo Water Dynasty soldiers below, "Soldiers, don't be afraid. This is a senior invited by our Luo Water Dynasty. Today we will definitely win." The morale of the soldiers of the Luo River Dynasty rose when they heard Luo Tian's impassioned voice. "Look, that's His Highness the First Prince. His Highness the First Prince has brought reinforcements to reinforce us. I knew it. The First Prince and the others wouldn't abandon us." H11. For a moment, the Luo Shui Dynasty's soldiers were filled with fighting spirit. On the contrary, the Blood-Sickle Dynasty had already begun to retreat. A final struggle. A furious voice sounded in the air. Then, Duan Xiong's figure appeared above the Blood-Sickle Dynasty soldiers. His appearance also attracted the attention of Jiang Beichen and the others. "Senior, that's the Blood-Sickle Empire's King Duan Xiong." Luo Tian came to Jiang Beichen's side and said slowly. Duan Xiong looked at Jiang Beichen's figure and felt that he was a little unfamiliar. However, when he checked Jiang Beichen's aura, it seemed that he was not even as good as his own soldiers. He must have a powerful Dharma treasure to be able to defeat Luo Tian and his soldiers. Poor Luo Tian. He thought that he had found a peerless expert, and so did his spy. He had actually been deceived by him. Thinking of this, Duan Xiong's eyes flashed with a trace of greed. If he could take possession of that magic treasure, wouldn't his strength be able to reach another level? This Luo Water Dynasty was really his blessed land. Not only did it allow him to obtain Luo Water. Now that he had received another Dharma treasure, Duan Xiong said to Jiang Beichen and Luo Tian, "Luo Tian, don't struggle anymore. I've already taken Luo Water. If you kneel down and surrender now, this king can still let you go." At this point, Duan Xiong revealed a sinister smile. "Otherwise, when I attack your Luo Water city, one will definitely slaughter him for 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 255. Chapter 255. I'll let you see what a divine emperor is. 1. Chapter 255. I'll let you see what a divine emperor is. 1. As soon as Duan Xiong finished speaking, he saw Jiang Beichen already appear in the sky above him. Jiang Beichen's eyes were fixed on Duan Xiong as he gathered his true core strength and unsheathed his sword. He was ready to kill Duan Xiong with a single strike. Duan Xiong looked at Jiang Beichen's actions with disdain in his eyes. Feeglebug. Before he could finish speaking, Duan Xiong saw a huge sword appear in the sky above him. His body instinctively wanted to dodge, but he realized that his body had been locked by an aura, and he could not move at all. Seeing Jiang Beichen in the sky, fear appeared in Duan Xiong's eyes for the first time. How could he not understand what magic treasure he had used to kill his soldiers just now? He was a grandmaster of the sword, and the sword was famous for its killing. If he was hit by this, Duan Xiong didn't dare to continue thinking about it. He saw Jiang Beichen pointing his finger at him. The giant sword in the sky was pointed at him, turning into a stream of light and flying towards him. Senior, I was wrong. One was blind just now and didn't know you were here. The instinctive fear in his body caused Duan Xiong's begging voice to ring out in the air. However, no matter how much he begged for mercy, the flying sword did not slow down. The flying sword arrived in the blink of an eye. Duan Xiong looked at the triangular jade pendant on his neck and shouted at him. Ancestor, save me! Ancestor, save me! Accompanied by his cry for help, the flying sword pierced through his body, and Duan Xiong's body fell from the sky. Everyone was silent as they stared at Jiang Beichen in the sky. Then, the soldiers of the Luoshui dynasty waved their weapons and shouted, Good, good, good! On the other hand, when the Blood Sickle Empire soldiers saw their ruler being killed by Jiang Beichen in one strike, they all threw down the weapons in their hands and fled. Luo Tian looked at Jiang Beichen in disbelief and said, Thank you, Senior. Humph, you dare to kill my descendant? I don't care who you are. I'll make you pay with your blood. A cold voice sounded in the air. A ball of blood-red gas suddenly appeared in the direction where Duan Xiong was killed. The gas slowly gathered and finally formed a spatial vortex. Then, a figure wearing a skull necklace and holding a scythe walked out. As soon as this figure appeared, the tyrannical aura on his body suppressed the voices of everyone present. He casually scanned the battlefield and appeared beside Duan Xiong. When Duan Xiong went out to battle, he had given him a triangular jade pendant, telling him that if his life was in danger, he could crush it and appear. Now that Duan Xiong was completely dead, it was obvious that he had been killed along with the jade pendant. This is the Divine Emperor. Luo Tian looked at the old man who appeared out of thin air and said in shock. It was only now that he knew that the Blood Sickle dynasty still had a god emperor. He was a little nervous because of Jiang Beichen's joy in killing Duan Xiong. He did not know if Jiang Beichen could deal with the Divine Emperor. After all, there was only a difference of one realm between the Divine Emperor and the Divine King. However, the difference between the two was like the difference between clouds and mud. However, before Duan Wancho could do anything, Jiang Beichen appeared in front of him and said slowly, I can feel that Luo water is on you. After Duan Wancho heard Jiang Beichen's words and put Duan Xiong into his interspatial ring, he laughed out loud. That's right, Luo water is with me. However, do you think you have the strength to fight for it? After obtaining Luo water, Duan Wancho had already completed his breakthrough from the God King realm to the God Emperor realm. The increase in his strength gave him enough confidence. Moreover, he had cultivated his undying body to the great success stage. Jiang Beichen didn't waste any more time with Duan Wancho after he received his confirmation. He also attacked with his sword. In his perception, this old man did not seem to be any different from the old man who had been killed by his sword just now. Duan Wancho sneered when he saw Jiang Beichen taking the initiative to attack him. A group of brats who are still wet behind their ears. Today, 1 foot 11 inches let you see what a god emperor is. When the Blood Sickle Empire soldiers heard Duan Wancho's voice, they were all excited. The ancestor has broken through. What's the Luo Water dynasty? Ancestor, crush that sword and let them see what a god emperor is. Duan Wancho nodded in satisfaction as the Blood Sickle dynasty soldiers shouted. He was about to reach out to catch the sword in midair. Do you think that the godly king and the godly emperor? However, before Duan Wanchou could finish his sentence, he realized that his body was the same as Duan Xiong's. He could not move. What was going on? Duan Wanchou felt his body go out of control and was momentarily stunned. However, the flying sword was even faster than the previous one. Jiang Beichen only wanted to get the luo water from this old man as soon as possible. Duan Wanchou's body exploded into a mist of blood. The soldiers of the Luo Shui dynasty were sweating profusely. They were stunned when they saw Duan Wanchou being killed by another sword strike. Then they shouted excitedly, "Divine Emperor, is that all? Invincible, invincible, invincible." As for the Blood Sickle Empire soldiers, they had just seen hope when it was shattered in front of them. Their faces were ashen. Luo Tian looked at Jiang Beichen in the air, not knowing how to express his feelings. This senior could even kill a God Emperor realm expert with a single sword strike. Just what realm had this senior's strength reached? Back in the main hall, he had even attacked Senior. At that time Senior had shown mercy, right? Jiang Beichen, who was in the air, frowned because he saw that the blood mist in the air did not disappear. In a short while, the blood mist in the air gathered again, and Duan Wanchou's figure reappeared. As expected, the Divine Emperor was not so easy to kill. Luo Tian looked at Duan Wanchou and thought to himself. Duan Wanchou's body reassembled. He clutched his chest. He had also felt the arrival of the Grim Reaper just now. Fortunately, he had already cultivated the undying body to the Great Success realm. Otherwise, even if he had the strength of a God Emperor realm expert, he would have been dead by now. For a moment, Duan Wanchou looked at Jiang Beichen with some fear in his eyes. Then in a flash, she appeared beside Jiang Beichen, waving the sickle in her hand and slashing at him. As long as he could get a drop of Jiang Beichen's blood, he would be able to cast a spell to reflect the damage he had received onto Jiang Beichen. Coupled with his undying body, he would definitely be able to obtain victory. Duan Wanchou's thoughts were also detected by Jiang Beichen. In a flash, he appeared on the other side. At the same time, he swung his sword again, and Duan Wanchou's figure exploded in midair. Chapter 256, Chapter 256. Looks like I can only go back and ask Master. Chapter 256. Looks like I can only go back and ask Master. Bang! 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 In midair, Jiang Beichen and Duan Wanchou kept on flashing and exploding. Duan Wanchou's body had exploded countless times in the exchange of blows. Jiang Beichen stood in midair and looked at Duan Wanchou. After a few exchanges, he had a precise understanding of Duan Wanchou's undying body. It seemed that the problem couldn't be solved by killing him. He was only dodging his attacks to prevent him from taking his blood. The others didn't seem to be able to do anything to him. Duan Wanchou's figure gathered once again, and he looked at Jiang Beichen, who was standing opposite him, with some fear. After exchanging a few blows, he did not even touch Jiang Beichen's clothes, let alone his blood. On the contrary, his body was constantly being slashed by the other party. If this continued, although he would not die, his foundation for advancing to the God Emperor realm would also be unstable. Duan Wanchou turned around and said to the Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers behind him, "Blood Sickle Empire soldiers, retreat with me." After saying that, he didn't stay any longer. His figure turned into a stream of light and flashed into the distance. After Duan Wanchou left alone, the Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers no longer had the mood to fight. They also turned around and fled, disappearing from everyone's sight in a short while. They were afraid that Jiang Beichen would suddenly stab them. Where would they go to complain? Jiang Beichen did not stop Duan Wanchou and the Blood Sickle Empire from retreating. Up until now, he still didn't have a better way to restrain Duan Wanchou. Although Duan Wanchou's strength was nothing in his eyes, his undying body was a little shameless. When the Luo Water Dynasty soldiers saw the Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers retreating, tears streamed down their faces. "We won, we won," the soldier from the Luo Water Dynasty murmured. Not long ago, they thought that they would die on the battlefield, and become history with the Luo River dynasty. Luo Tian wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. With the Blood Sickle dynasty's retreat, he knew that the Luo Shui dynasty was safe. She flew up to Jiang Beichen's side and said, "Senior, I can't repay your kindness." In the palace of the Luo Shui dynasty, there was a banquet. After the Blood Sickle dynasty retreated from Luo Water City, the Blood Sickle dynasty's soldiers in the other cities of Luo Water dynasty also retreated. All of them retreated back to their own countries. For a time, the Luo Water dynasty could be said to have recovered its entire territory. The palace was filled with the atmosphere of victory and joy. As the great benefactor of the Luo Shui dynasty, Jiang Beichen naturally sat in the middle of the banquet. He didn't want to attend the banquet, but Luo Tian and the others were too enthusiastic. At the banquet, Luo Tian, who was sitting next to him, picked up a wine glass and said to Jiang Beichen, "The Luo Shui dynasty will never forget Senior's great kindness. In the future, if there's anything that the Luo Shui dynasty can use, please let me know." Seeing Luo Tian toast him, Jiang Beichen also picked up his glass and clinked it with Luo Tian's before downing it. After a glass of wine, seeing that Jiang Beichen didn't look very happy, he said slowly, "Senior, are you troubled by the matter at Luo Shui? As long as Senior gives the order, the Luo Water Empire can send troops to the Blood Sickle Empire to help Senior seize Luo Water." Luo Tian also knew that Jiang Beichen had come to Luo Shui Palace for their sacred item, Luo Shui. Jiang Beichen knew that Luo Tian was doing this out of goodwill, but he had yet to find a way to deal with Duan Wanshou, so sending troops would be useless. Although Duan Wanshou couldn't defeat him, he couldn't do anything to him. If he was driven to desperation and destroyed Luo Shui or switched it to someone else, wouldn't that be even more troublesome? Putting the wine glass back on the table, Jiang Beichen said slowly, "It seems that one can only go back and ask Master." "Master?" When Luo Tian heard Jiang Beichen's words, he was shocked. Could it be that Senior has a master? With Senior's strength of killing a God Emperor realm expert with a single sword strike, how strong would Senior's master be? Could it be the godly emperor? No, it should be the legendary immortal. At that thought, Luo Tian felt a sense of reverence for the master Jiang Beichen spoke of. After the banquet, Jiang Beichen left the Luo Shui dynasty and returned to the place where he had entered the divine realm. His figure stopped in midair. Just like when he came, he commanded and a crack appeared between the barriers of the two worlds. Jiang Beichen's figure flashed past the two of them. At the same time, in Xiao Changtian's courtyard, Fu Tian stood in front of Xiao Changtian and handed him a blue fruit he had just found. This blue fruit was the ingredient that Xiao Changtian told him to find. Although it took a lot of effort, he was lucky enough to not fail his mission. Xiao Changtian took the fruit from Fu Tian and placed it in the cabinet in the kitchen. He then said to Fu Tian, "Fu Tian, I know that you have good talent. If you have nothing to do, you should go around the Great Sun sect more often." When she took Fu Tian as her disciple back then, she also knew that he was a hot shot. His cultivation talent was definitely amazing. However, he was just a mortal. He knew nothing about cultivation and could not teach him anything. However, as his master, he could not delay him, right? Fortunately, the Taoist master of the Great Sun Town was a reclusive expert, so he asked his disciple to visit the vicinity of the Great Sun sect. Perhaps one day, an elder of the Great Sun sect would be so happy that he would bestow an opportunity upon them. In this way, he did not waste his talent. When Fu Tian heard Xiao Changtian's words, he looked thoughtful. "I found the ingredients. I can understand why Master praised my talent. But what was the meaning of going to the Great Sun sect? Could it be that there was an opportunity there?" Although Fu Tian had doubts in his heart, he still retreated. As the saying went, the master led the way, but cultivation depended on one's own abilities. His master had already given him some pointers. Next, he would have to rely on himself to explore. At the same time, Jiang Beichen appeared at the gate of the courtyard. Seeing Jiang Beichen's arrival, Gan Tianlei and the others who were guarding the door greeted him. After exchanging a few pleasantries with them, Jiang Beichen watched as Futian walked out of the door. Seeing Futian, Jiang Beichen said to him, "Junior brother, are you also here to look for master?" When Futian heard Jiang Beichen's words, he nodded at him and said slowly, Yes. One just sent the ingredients that master asked me to find over. I'm going to take a walk around the Great Sun Sect." Junior brother Futian had also found the ingredients. Hearing Futian's words, Jiang Beichen felt even more strongly that the matter of Luo Shui needed to be resolved immediately. Otherwise, as his senior brother, he would end up at the bottom. His master would be very disappointed in him. Chapter 257. Chapter 257. You have to take it easy 1. Chapter 257. You have to take it easy 1. After Futian left, Xiao Changtian was resting on a rocking chair in the courtyard. As soon as she lay down, she saw Jiang Beichen walking towards her. Wasn't this his crown prince's disciple? It had been a long time since he had seen him. He must have been busy looking for ingredients. With that thought in mind, Xiao Changtian turned to Jiang Beichen and said, "Are you also here to deliver ingredients to master?" Hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Jiang Beichen's face turned red and he said nervously, "Master, I've been in some trouble recently, and haven't gotten a water source yet." Xiao Changtian heard that Jiang Beichen was in trouble, and saw that he was a little nervous. Presumably, he was in trouble, and was too embarrassed to tell her, afraid that she would blame him. After all, in his previous life, he often saw some students who did something wrong, and did not dare to tell the teacher, afraid that the teacher would blame them. With that thought in mind, Xiao Changtian stood up from his rocking chair, and walked to Jiang Beichen's side. Patting his shoulder, he said slowly, "If there's any trouble, just say it. Master will try his best to help you." Hearing Xiao Changtian's amiable tone, the nervousness in Jiang Beichen's heart dissipated a little. After adjusting himself, he said to Xiao Changtian, "One came to the dynasty under master's orders to find ingredients, but I found that the Luo water sacred artifact had already been taken by someone else." Hearing Jiang Beichen's words, Xiao Changtian finally understood. He had asked this disciple to look for ingredients. He had originally wanted to return to his own dynasty, and ask someone to help him find them. However, when he returned, he found that his dynasty had been attacked, and the sacred object had been taken away. After thinking it through, Xiao Changtian said to Jiang Beichen, "I wonder how strong that person is. How did he snatch the sacred item away?" He also knew that this disciple of his was the crown prince of a mortal dynasty. With his martial arts skills, he could go over and arm wrestle with him, to help his disciple get back the sacred object. Hearing Xiao Changtian's question, Jiang Beichen immediately replied, "The spell that person cultivates is extremely strange. He has an almost undying body. Moreover, after drinking the other party's blood, he can reflect the damage he received to the other party." So he was an immortal cultivator. When Xiao Changtian heard Jiang Beichen's words, he felt a little troubled. He could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortal cultivators, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, 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 he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with immortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could deal with mortals, he could have no way. Moreover, from what his disciple said, why did he feel that it was an animated character he had seen in his previous life? With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to Jiang Beichen, "Disciple, is that person wearing a blood-red robe and holding a scythe?" Jiang Beichen nodded after hearing Xiao Changtian's words. As expected of his master, he could observe everything in the world from the small courtyard. He even knew Duan Wancho's clothes and weapons clearly. Seeing Jiang Beichen nod, Xiao Changtian confirmed his thoughts. That immortal cultivator was definitely the reincarnation of Fei Duan. It would be good enough if he didn't get killed by such an immortal cultivator, let alone snatch the sacred object from him. Thinking of this, Xiao Changtian could only console Jiang Beichen. Disciple, you have to be open-minded about everything. Don't fall into a dead end. Xiao Changtian was also afraid that his disciple would be hot-headed and go find an immortal cultivator to take back the sacred object. One must know that immortal cultivators are not something mortals like us can deal with, let alone such an awesome immortal cultivator. Fortunately, only the sacred item was lost, and no one was injured or killed. After Jiang Beichen heard Xiao Changtian's words, he also looked thoughtful. Master told me not to fall into a dead end, but other than avoiding that old monster and not letting him drink my blood, there's no good way to deal with it. That's not right. Could it be that Master wants me to give the blood to that old monster? The way of the sword that you practice is the way of killing. How can you get rid of it? You should always go forward. At the thought of this, Jiang Beichen looked as if he had suddenly realized something. He said to Xiao Changtian, Master, one understand. Xiao Changtian nodded in satisfaction. Fortunately, this disciple of his was not a stubborn person. After Master opens the path of invincibility, I'll help you snatch back the sacred artifact. Jiang Beichen was about to leave when Xiao Changtian said to Mu Jiahuang, Jiao Beichen is leaving. Send him off. Hearing Jiang Beichen's words, Mu Jiahuang also walked out of the room and bowed to Xiao Changtian. Then, she sent Jiang Beichen out of Xiao Changtian's courtyard. After returning, Xiao Changtian said to Mu Jiahuang, Jiao, what do you think of Beichen's mental state? Hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Mu Jiahuang looked a little confused. Obviously, she didn't know why Xiao Changtian suddenly asked her this question, but she still said to Xiao Changtian, Master, I think Beichen's mental state is very good. Xiao Changtian nodded and said to Mu Jiahuang, That's good. Beichen has been in trouble recently. Although Beichen seemed to have come to his senses under his guidance. However, there was no guarantee that he would not be hot-headed at any time. It was better to let his maidservant watch over him more. After giving Mu Jiahuang his instructions, Xiao Changtian returned to his rocking chair and took a nap. Luoshui dynasty. After leaving Xiao Changtian's courtyard, Jiang Beichen immediately returned to the Luoshui dynasty. At this moment, Jiang Beichen stood in the palace of Luoshui Palace and said to Luo Tian, Luo Tian, your Luo Water Empire has been resting for the past few days. Do you dare to join me in sending troops to the Bloodsickle Empire? After defeating the Bloodsickle dynasty, Luo Tian's reputation in the Luoshui dynasty had reached an unprecedented height. Naturally, he would replace his father and become the new king of the Luo River dynasty. After hearing Jiang Beichen's words, Luo Tian quickly replied, My Luo Water Empire is willing to follow Senior to send troops to the Blood-Sickle Empire to avenge our past humiliation and repay Senior's kindness. Seeing Luo Tian's expression, Jiang Beichen nodded and said, Then you should reorganize and set off now. Jiang Beichen felt that Luo Tian was just a friend he had met by chance. If Luo Tian had rejected him, he wouldn't have said anything. He would have just assumed that he had misjudged Luo Tian. Soon, the Luo Water Dynasty army was ready to go under Luo Tian's reorganization. Luo Tian brought Jiang Beichen to the top of the city wall and said to him, Senior, the Luo Water Dynasty army can set off at any time. After Luo Tian finished speaking, Jiang Beichen took the lead and flew out on his flying sword. Seeing Jiang Beichen's actions, Luo Tian said to the army below, All troops listen up. Follow Senior and attack. When he saw the injured disciples of the Great Sun sect, he was furious. He pointed at Li Wushuang and the others and shouted, Humiliating my Great Sun sect like this, you are courting death. Hearing the furious voice of the Great Sun Immortal, Nailin Yin immediately ran into Li Wushuang's arms. She raised her head and said to him in a sweet voice, Brother Wushuang, This old man is so fierce, I am so scared. Hearing Nalan Yan's sweet voice, the Great Sun sect disciples behind the Great Sun Immortal could not help but tremble, and goosebumps appeared all over their bodies. When Li Wuxuang heard Nalan Yan's words, she hugged her tightly and said softly, "Bow, with me here. Brother Wuxuang will help you teach him a lesson for a reckless Saint King." Seeing Nalan Yan nod, Li Wuxuang waved the long whip in her hand. A tyrannical aura blew towards Taoist Big Sun and the others. The disciple behind the Great Sun Immortal could not stand steadily and fell to the ground. This aura, is it a God King? The Great Sun Immortal covered his face with his hand and said in shock, "Ha ha ha, one didn't expect you to know about the God King. It seems that your horizons are quite broad." Li Wuxuang laughed at the Great Sun Immortal and then said coldly, "Since you know about the God King, why don't you quickly kneel down and apologize?" The Great Sun Immortal snorted, waved his sleeves, and reached his hand into his pocket. According to common sense, he, a saint ruler, should kneel down and bow before a God King. However, he had the Nanming Ignis diagram given to him by his senior. Ever since he had it, he had never lost a fight. After fiddling with his pocket and rummaging through his interspatial ring, the immortal De Yang's heart sank. Oh no, he had just arrived in a hurry, and the Nanming Ignis painting was still in his room. Li Wuxuang saw that the Grand Sun Immortal didn't kneel down after hearing her words. Instead, he searched her body. He couldn't help but feel angry, and he whipped the long whip in his hand at the Great Sun Immortal. Pa! The long whip hit the body of the Great Sun Immortal, and his body flew out of the hall like a kite with a broken string. "Wow, Brother Wuxuang is so awesome," Nalan Yan said softly to Li Wuxuang when she saw the big Sun Jinren being sent flying. Chu Yuanshan had been sitting on a chair in the main hall. He had not participated in any of the topics from the beginning to the end. Outside the Great Sun Palace, Taoist Master De Yang was lying on the ground with blood still dripping from his mouth. He clutched his chest as he watched Li Wuxuang and Nalan Yan slowly walk out of the palace. Damn it! He had to get the Nanming Ignis painting as soon as possible. Otherwise, he might not be able to see the sun tomorrow. After pondering for a while, he stood up and walked to his room. "Baby, look, doesn't he look like a clown now?" Li Wuxuang pointed at the limping appearance of the enlightened person in the big sun, as she spoke to Nalan Yan, who was in her arms. "Aya, you're so bad." Following that, Nalan Yan's charming laughter rang out from her bosom. On the path leading to the Great Sun sect, Futian was scratching the back of his head, thinking about what Xiao Changtian had said to him. Maybe we'll find something if we take a walk around the Great Sun sect. Along the way, Fu Tian muttered to himself countless times. Then he felt the fluctuation of aura coming from the Great Sun sect. Did something happen in the Great Sun sect? Fu Tian looked up at the buildings of the Great Sun clan. Could this be the reason why Master asked me to come over? After saying this excitedly, Fu Tian quickened his pace towards the Great Sun sect. Chapter 259, Chapter 259. Human and Sword as One, Death of the Blood Sickle Empire. _I. Chapter 259. Human and Sword as One, Death of the Blood Sickle Empire. _I. In the sky above Blood Sickle City, the group of Blood Sickle Dynasty soldiers looked at Jiang Beichen's figure in shock. The expected situation of Jiang Beichen, turning into a blood mist like Patriarch Bloodsickle, did not happen. On the contrary, it looked as if it was unscathed. After a brief moment of shock, the soldiers of the Luo River dynasty let out a series of shouts. Invincible, invincible, invincible! Patriarch Bloodsickle's figure gathered again. His eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at Jiang Beichen. What was going on? He had exploded into a bloody mist, but why did this kid look completely fine? Could it be that his internal injuries were severe, so he was forcing himself to pretend to be unscathed? Yes, that must be the case. Patriarch Bloodsickle thought to himself as he beckoned at Jiang Beichen. As long as he withstood a few more attacks, this kid definitely wouldn't be able to withstand my rebound attacks. It was a huge blow to the soldiers of the Luo Water dynasty. At that time, it will be the time for our Bloodsickle Empire to launch a counterattack. Thinking of this, a smile appeared on Patriarch Bloodsickle's face. Meanwhile, Jiang Beichen was in a daze as he felt the changes in his body. When the reflected damage was applied to his body, he could clearly feel that his comprehension of the sword Dao and the true essence attached to his sword had increased by a level. He couldn't help but think of the painting that Xiao Changtian gave him when he first entered the sect. The edge of a sword is sharpened, and the fragrance of plum blossoms comes from the bitter cold. Master, so what one comprehended previously was only the tip of the iceberg of sword intent. So this is how the sword needs to be tempered. Jiang Beichen mumbled, under the polishing of the reflected sword intent. Jiang Beichen's swordsmanship had improved yet again. Holding the sword tightly in his hand, Jiang Beichen looked at Patriarch Bloodsickle indifferently. To him, the current Patriarch Bloodsickle was the best grinding stone for his sword. Patriarch Bloodsickle looked at Jiang Beichen, who was attacking him again. For some reason, he felt that Jiang Beichen seemed to have changed. The sword in his hand seemed to have been sharpened. Even the sword energies that flew over became even colder. Whatever, maybe it's my illusion. When this kid can't withstand the injuries in his body, 1 foot 11 inches definitely win. With that thought in mind, the sword beam arrived as promised, turning Patriarch Bloodsickle's body into a cloud of blood mist again. Once again, Jiang Beichen felt the inner yuan in his body churn and become sharper. What's up with Patriarch Blood? Could it be that he didn't use the rebound art? After Patriarch Bloodsickle's body exploded into a bloody mist several times without Jiang Beichen being injured, the immortal cultivators began to feel that something was wrong. How is that possible? One think this senior must have found a way to counter the rebound technique. *T. The Bloodsickle Empire has been in the boundless immortal continent for so many years. If the rebound technique could be restrained, it would have spread long ago. Stop talking. Look. A cultivator pointed at the sky, and everyone looked over. The current Patriarch Bloodsickle was no longer as calm as before when he had obtained the blood. Instead, he seemed to be fleeing in panic. Patriarch Bloodsickle was now filled with fear. Just like the immortal cultivators below, he also felt that something was wrong. It had been so long. If Jiang Beichen was injured, he should have collapsed. Now, not only did he not fall, but his attacks were even more agile. There were a few times when Patriarch Bloodsickle felt that his undying body could not withstand it, and was about to be slashed to death. This kid was really strange. Patriarch Bloodsickle no longer had the time to think about why his rebound art was ineffective. All he could think about was how to escape. Once again, Shun's figure was locked onto him. Shun's figure had already arrived above him. He said to him expressionlessly, "It's over." As soon as he finished speaking, Jiang Beichen's body transformed into a giant sword that could lift the sky. Bang! As soon as the giant sword appeared, the weapons on the cultivators below trembled continuously, as if they had encountered a terrifying existence. This is man and sword as one, man and sword as one. A cultivator in the crowd exclaimed. How could they still not understand? This senior sword cultivation had already reached the peak of perfection. The giant sword tore through the sky. Patriarch Bloodsickle's gaze was filled with fear at first, but it eventually turned into a trace of madness. Why? One should be the overlord of the boundless immortal continent after one broke through to the God Emperor realm. How could an expert like you appear? I can't accept this. One can't accept this. Patriarch Bloodsickle's voice echoed in the air, followed by Jiang Beichen's greatsword. Bang! This time, Patriarch Bloodsickle's body did not turn into a bloody mist. Instead, his life force was directly cut off as he fell from midair in front of the city gates of Bloodsickle City. The ancestor is dead, the ancestor is dead. The death of the Bloodsickle Patriarch and Jiang Beichen's imposing manner had thrown the Bloodsickle dynasty soldiers into disarray, throwing down their weapons and surrendering. Soldiers, follow me in. After Jiang Beichen had killed Patriarch Bloodsickle, Luo Tian was delighted as well. He commanded the Luoshui dynasty soldiers to advance. The other cultivators also understood that after today, the Luo Water dynasty would become the only overlord of the boundless immortal continent. Immediately, they all wanted to transmit their voices to their own sections. Ancestor, the Luo Water Empire has already destroyed the Blood Sickle Empire. In the future, the Luo Water Empire cannot be provoked. Some of the immortal cultivators became terrified. When the Luo River dynasty was weak, they had hit them when they were down. Immediately, they said to the voice transmission jade pendant in their hands, "Ancestor, the Luo Water dynasty has won. Hurry up and take out the sect's cornerstone treasure as an apology. Otherwise, when that sword senior arrives, we'll probably be doomed." Soon, Luo Shui dynasty conquered Blood Sickle City. Luo Tian slowly said to Jiang Beichen, "Senior, we've already searched the entire palace, but there's no sign of Luo Shui." Jiang Beichen scanned the entire Blood Sickle City with his holy sense and walked forward. He said to Luo Tian, "Follow me." Soon, Jiang Beichen appeared on the Blood Sickle dynasty's square. With a swing of his sword, the Blood Sickle Patriarch's statue on the square was cut in half, and a spatial entrance appeared. "This is the Blood Sickle Empire's secret chamber?" Luo Tian looked at the spatial entrance and said happily. Before this, they had not found anything valuable in the Blood Sickle dynasty. He suspected that they had moved elsewhere in advance. He did not expect there to be a secret chamber here. Jiang Beichen led the group into the secret chamber. Soon, the Blood Sickle dynasty's accumulated wealth over the years appeared before them. Luo Tian looked at all of this excitedly. With all of this, he believed that the Luo Water dynasty would soon return to its peak. However, Jiang Beichen was not interested in these things. Compared to the calligraphy and paintings that Xiao Changtian had given him, these things were far inferior. After walking around the secret room, he found Luo Shui. Chapter 260 Chapter 260. Let him have a mouth to eat one. Chapter 260. Let him have a mouth to eat one. Jiang Beichen looked at the spiritual spring in his hand and said slowly to Luo Tian, "This is the water source that never freezes, Luo Water?" Luo Tian nodded and said slowly, Yes, this is Luo Water. As long as it is matched with the corresponding array formation, a mystic realm can be constructed. The density of spiritual energy, there will be several times that of the outside world." When Jiang Beichen heard Luo Tian's words, he also felt the Luo Water in his hand. However, he could sense that the Luo Water's energy was slowly dissipating. If this continued, wouldn't the water source be useless when his master cooked? Luo Tian seemed to have noticed Jiang Beichen's confusion and quickly said to him, "Senior, after Luo Shui was seized by the Blood Sickle Empire, Patriarch Blood Sickle must have forcefully seized the energy in his body, causing Luo Shui's energy to flow away." Jiang Beichen couldn't help but ask, "Is there a solution to this?" Now that he had finally obtained Luo Shui, if he were to cripple it, he would have to find another one. When Luo Tian heard Jiang Beichen's words, he replied, "Senior, don't worry. This Luo Shui river has some connections with our Luo Shui dynasty's cultivation technique. As long as it is nourished by our Luo Shui dynasty's cultivation technique, it will recover in a few days." Hearing Luo Tian's words, Jiang Beichen was relieved and immediately said, "How about this? 1 foot 11 inches, leave this Luo Water here to nourish it first. Then you'll follow me to see master." Luo Tian was excited when he heard that he was going to Jiang Beichen's master. He had admired Jiang Beichen's master for a long time. This senior went to see his master and used the human sword unity after returning. It was hard to imagine what realm that person's strength had reached. However, I have to remind you in advance that Master is currently tempering his heart in the mortal world and playing around. When you reach Master, you can't casually release your true essence. Otherwise, neither of us can bear the responsibility, understand? After Luo Tian heard Jiang Beichen's words, he quickly nodded. Following that, Jiang Bei led them to the stronghold between the two worlds. "Senior, we are Luo Tian also felt a little strange when she saw Jiang Beichen bring her to the barrier between the two worlds. Master is not in the divine world. He lives in the lower realm. However, don't look down on the lower realm. Your boundless immortal continent can't even compare to a brick in Master's courtyard. As Jiang Beichen spoke, he brandished the sword in his hand to break the barrier between the two worlds. Luo Tian looked at Jiang Beichen's master with even more anticipation when he saw Jiang Beichen casually open the barrier between the two worlds that was filled with nomological laws. Then, he followed Jiang Beichen and flew down to the lower realm. Xiao Changtian was in the courtyard at the moment. He said to Mu Jiuhuang, "Jiu'er, how has Beichen been recently? Has he done anything extreme?" Xiao Changtian was also very worried about his disciple's situation after he found out that Jiang Beichen's dynasty was attacked by Xiuxianists. Mu Jiuhuang shook her head and said to Xiao Changtian, "Master, Beichen has been doing well recently. There's no problem." After Xiao Changtian told her to keep an eye on Jiang Beichen, she had talked to him when she was feeding the black tortoise. From Black Tortoise, he knew that Jiang Beichen had not had any difficulties recently. On the contrary, he had made a breakthrough, so he told Xiao Changtian the truth. At this moment, there was a knock on the door of the courtyard. Then, Xiao Changtian saw Jiang Beichen walk in with the young man. Jiang Beichen came to Xiao Changtian's side and bowed to him before saying, "Master, I've already found the unfreezing water source." Then he gestured to Luo Tian behind him. Luo Tian followed behind Jiang Beichen and sized up Xiao Changtian as he entered. In his eyes, Xiao Changtian was dressed in a green robe and had a graceful bearing. He looked like an immortal. Moreover, the aura on his body did not leak out at all. Presumably, it had already reached a level that he could not catch up with. Then, he saw a scene that he would never forget. A phoenix with an endless fire domain around its body. A divine dog that used the stars in the universe as a chessboard and opened its bloody mouth to devour the sky and the moon. An ant that walked out of the chaos. There was also a golden dragon whose body covered the heavens. These terrifying auras directly pressed him until he couldn't breathe. Luo Tian felt that the true essence in his body had stopped flowing. After receiving Jiang Beichen's signal, Luo Tian quickly took out the Luo water he had been nourishing and handed it to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian took the Luo water and placed it on the table beside him. This thing was exactly the same as the image given by the system. It was obviously correct. He did not expect that his disciple would not forget to find ingredients for him after the sacred artifact was stolen from his family. He had indeed not misjudged him back then. He picked up the few paintings he had just finished and handed them to Xiao Changtian. He said slowly, "My dear disciple, these are the paintings one just finished. Take them." Jiang Beichen took the calligraphy and painting from Xiao Changtian, feeling a little excited. This was a supreme opportunity given to him by his master. Seeing Jiang Beichen's happy look, Xiao Changtian nodded in satisfaction. This disciple of his really liked painting and calligraphy. He was not like others who liked to wield swords. After he inherited the throne, he could rule the world with literature. Then, he saw Luo Tian behind Jiang Beichen. Luo Tian's body was covered in dust. Moreover, his clothes were a little tattered. It was obvious that his family had met with a disaster. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to Jiang Beichen, "Disciple, the person behind you must be in trouble at home." Hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Jiang Beichen nodded and said to Xiao Changtian, "Yes, master." Hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Luo Tian was also shocked. This senior's master was able to take these divine beasts under his command. His father must have been delirious, and he must have known that the Blood Sickle Empire had attacked him. Immediately, he nodded to Xiao Changtian and said, "Senior is right. I came here earlier too." When Xiao Changtian heard Luo Tian's words, he waved his hand, indicating that Luo Tian didn't need to continue. When his family was in trouble, he came to his place so that he could take him in and give him a bite to eat. He then turned to Elder Zhu Yi and said, "Elder Zhu Yi, there's a young man here. One think he's quite young and strong. Can you arrange a job for him, so that he can have a living? Elder Zhu Yi, who was supervising deity King Red Cloud and the others, also hurried over when he heard Xiao Changtian's words. He had noticed Luo Tian when he came in. It was just that Luo Tian's aura did not seem to be as strong as Divine King Red Cloud and the others. After all, Divine King Red Cloud and the others had spent a lot of effort to get rid of the ashes. This kid probably could not do anything. But since Senior said so, he naturally had his reasons. Chapter 261. Chapter 261. What exactly did you experience that made the godly king feel that the divine world was not smelly? Chapter 261. What exactly did you experience that made the godly king feel that the divine world was not smelly? After hearing Xiao Changtian's order, Elder Zhu Yi walked up to Luo Tian and said slowly, "Brat, follow me." Luo Tian looked at Elder Zhu Yi in shock. He had wanted to thank Xiao Changtian and Jiang Beichen, but Xiao Changtian had arranged a job for him. What was Senior doing? Although Luo Tian had some doubts, he still followed Elder Zhu Yi over. After a while, Elder Zhu Yi led Luo Tian to the yard. This was God King Hong Yun, God King He Tian, and Luo Tian looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. As for God King Red Cloud and the others, although he had never seen them before, he still knew their unique attire. Furthermore, after sensing for a while, he discovered that each and every one of the people carrying bricks and smashing dust here was stronger than him. They were all at the godly king cultivation level. Why were these god kings all moving bricks and smashing dust here? At this moment, God King Red Cloud, who was in the midst of grinding dust, saw Luo Tian and smiled at him. "Isn't this the kid from the Luo Water dynasty? I didn't expect you to have such an opportunity." Chance. Luo Tian was a little confused when he heard what Red Cloud Divine King said, but he still smiled and bowed back. Luo Shui Dynasty's Luo Tian greets God King Red Cloud. At the same time, Elder Zhu Yi walked over with a wooden bucket and said to Luo Tian, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and dust them." Then, he pointed at God King Red Cloud and said, "And you, why are you talking so much? Do your job well. You're usually the one who's the most troublesome. Do you believe that I'll kick you?" Hearing Elder Zhu Yi's words, God King Red Cloud immediately smiled at him and turned around to work. From the looks of it, he was really afraid that Elder Zhu Yi would kick him into the ash pit. And you guys don't think that you have nothing to do just because one didn't say anything. Do your job well and don't slack off. As he spoke, Elder Zhu Yi waved the whip in his hand at the other god kings. When those who were in the midst of dust scattering heard Elder Zhu Yi's words, they lowered their heads and began to work seriously. He looked like a child who had done something wrong. Luo Tian was also stunned. Heavens, what did one just see? Luo Tian rubbed his eyes. Just now, this Desheng stage cultivator in front of him was teaching a lesson to the God King. Furthermore, it was a large group of godly kings. More importantly, these godly kings were even submissive, as if they did not dare to offend him. Luo Tian felt like his worldview had been greatly impacted. One had to know that these godly kings were also figures who dominated a region in the divine realm. Just as Luo Tian was in shock, he saw a person carrying a wicker basket pass by him. The wicker basket was filled with bricks of all sizes. "Young man, you must be new." After that person slowly said this to him, he went to the side and started moving bricks. "Isn't this Emperor Gord?" Luo Tian looked at the figure and said slowly in his heart. When he was young, he was lucky enough to meet the Gord Emperor. At that time, he was already a supreme expert who dominated a region. He did not expect him to be carrying bricks here. Luo Tian was so shocked that he could not speak. It was as if he had not come to the lower realm, but to the immortal world. Oh no, it was the human realm upon heavens. It was rumored that only the godly monarchs of the human realm upon heavens would carry bricks and dust. At this moment, the black-robed god king was carrying a wooden bucket to get some mud. When he saw Luo Tian still standing there, he said to him, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and get to work. When God King Black Heaven wanted to say something, he saw Elder Zhui staring at him. Dark Sky Divine King immediately shut his mouth and started working. After Luo Tian heard the Black Sky Divine King's words, he planned to follow him. He also wanted to know what exactly had happened to make these God Kings leave the God King Palace and come here to carry bricks and dust. Moreover, they looked like they were enjoying themselves. Just as he was about to pick up the wooden bucket by his feet, Luo Tian realized that he couldn't lift it. What happened? Luo Tian looked into the barrel. There was nothing inside. The true essence in his body slowly gathered in his palm. He used force to lift the bucket again, and finally lifted the bucket off the ground. This wooden barrel was unusually heavy. Luo Tian wiped the sweat off his forehead, and filled the bucket with muddy water. Suddenly, he felt a heavy weight in his hand, and the wooden bucket fell to the ground with a thud. What was going on? Luo Tian felt that the wooden bucket had become several times heavier after adding muddy water. Now Luo Tian finally understood that the wooden bucket in his hand was probably some kind of spirit weapon, or even a mortal weapon. Also, the muddy water in the wooden bucket was probably some kind of awesome spiritual item. After that, Luo Tian felt a sense of exhaustion in his body. Then the true essence in his body slowly recovered, and it was even more condensed than before. His cultivation base had already reached the peak stage of God Monarch. After such a transformation in his body, there were actually faint signs of him breaking through to God King. Luo Tian could feel the changes in his body, and he was in disbelief. This time, he also understood why this group of godly kings were willing to carry bricks and dust here. Because this was an opportunity, a supreme opportunity. All of a sudden, Luo Tian felt that the divine world was not fragrant at all. Where else could he find a good thing that could increase his cultivation by smashing ashes? Brat, can you do it? Elder Zhui's words reached Luo Tian's ears again. Senior, I can do it. In order to raise his cultivation, how could he say that he could not? After hearing Elder Zhui's words, Luo Tian hurriedly gathered all his true essence and held the wooden bucket with both hands. His face was red, and his hands were trembling as he lifted the wooden bucket. Finally, he lifted the wooden bucket. Then, he staggered towards the Black Sky Divine King with the bucket in his hand. Looking at the water on the ground, Luo Tian said to Elder Zhui, Senior, I can do it. Be careful next time. Elder Zhui snorted and said nothing. 3 streaks of light streaked across the sky above the North Barren State. Neilin Yin was nestled in Li Wushuang's arms, and beside her was Chu Yuan Shan, who was wearing a beast skin coat. After a round of fighting, the 3 of them had been searching for the whereabouts of the Lord of the Divine Court for the past few days. In midair, the scenery below could be seen at a glance. Neilin Yin pointed at Great Sun Town below and said slowly, Brother Wushuang, that is the Great Sun Town that fellow Taoist Chu mentioned. It doesn't seem to be a big deal. Chapter 262. Chapter 262. Treasure, there are so many people. Isn't it inappropriate? Chapter 262. Treasure, there are so many people. Isn't it inappropriate? Hearing Neilin Yan's words, Li Wushuang also nodded her head and casually glanced down, her mouth disdainfully saying, What's so great about a mere Daong town? We can easily destroy him. With Chu Yuan Shan joining them, Neilin Yan and the others thought that they would be able to quickly find the position of the Lord of the Divine Court. However, they did not expect that after talking to Chu Yuan Shan, they realized that Chu Yuan Shan knew even less than they did. If it wasn't for Chu Yuan Shan's strength, Neilin Yan would have asked Li Wushuang to part ways with him long ago. This time, they came to Daong Town because they heard from Chu Yuan Shan that his previous mount was trapped in Daong Town. If he could save it, his strength would increase to another level. Thinking about how Chu Yuan Shan's strength had improved, Neilin Yan immediately suggested coming to Daong Town to help Chu Yuan Shan find his mount. Li Wushuang had always been a bootlicker to Neilin Yan. After hearing Neilin Yan's suggestion, he immediately agreed. After spending a few days with them, Chu Yuanshan was already used to their arrogant behavior. Originally, he had planned to attack Li Wushuang and the others after he recovered his strength. However, after discovering that they knew more about the Lord of the Divine Court than he did, he kept them alive, wanting to find the source of their information. Moreover, they were here to help him find the Iron Eater. Thus, after hearing Li Wushuang and Nalin Yan's words, Chu Yuanshan only snorted coldly and didn't say anything. At the same time, in Xiao Changtian's courtyard, the autumn wind blew. The trees in the courtyard suddenly rustled. Xiao Changtian looked up at the sky. According to the time, it was probably going to be winter soon. He remembered that the last time, the great sun immortal had a flaming bead with him. He saw him casually placing it in the hall. It seemed to be used as an ornament. If he could borrow it, he could make it into a small sun to keep warm. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to Futian, "Futian, help me go to the Great Sun sect and borrow the fire pearl from the Great Sun Immortal." All right. When Futian heard Xiao Changtian's words, he immediately agreed. Ever since he found the ingredients, he had nothing to do in the courtyard for the past few days. Hearing Xiao Changtian's words, he naturally went out. In the town of Great Sun, Li Wushuang was holding a whip in her hand. From time to time, she would whip the disciples of Great Sun sect who had fallen in front of her. This whip was obtained from robbing a divine lord a while ago. Pa! The whip landed on the back of a Great Sun sect disciple, and a trail of blood immediately appeared on his back. It's just a small Great Sun sect. After one came to Great Sun Town, the sect master actually didn't come out to welcome me. I want to see when he will come out. Li Wushuang whacked the Great Sun sect disciple casually, as she spoke with dissatisfaction. These people were the disciples of Great Sun sect, who had gone out to patrol Great Sun Town. When he met Li Wushuang, he was captured and tortured by her. After a round of interrogation, he also knew that the cultivation of the Great Sun Immortal was only that of a Saint King. When he came to Daong Town, a puny Saint King actually did not come out to welcome him. These disciples even told him that the sect master would not let him off. One had to know that even a divine lord was respectful after being robbed by him. A puny Great Sun sect dared to threaten him. Immediately, he slapped the Great Sun sect disciple a few more times. On the path leading to the Great Sun sect, Futian was scratching the back of his head. Then he saw some people fleeing in panic on the street. What happened? Just as Futian was feeling doubtful, an aura fluctuation came from the front. Is there a battle? Futian looked ahead. In Daong Town, fighting was not a common thing. After muttering to himself, Futian quickened his pace and walked forward. On the streets of Daong Town, the Great Sun sect disciple's figure fell to the ground. Standing in front of him were Li Wushuang and Nalin Yan. You want to escape? Where are you going? Kneel down and kowtow to me. If I'm happy, I might let you go. Li Wushuang looked at the Great Sun sect disciple on the ground with contempt and teased him. Today in Great Sun Town, Li Wushuang felt that she had performed well in front of Nalin Yan. After today, Sister Nalin must have been completely conquered by his majestic manliness. Li Wushuang said in her heart. At this moment, Nalin Yan also whispered in her ear. Brother Wushuang, don't forget the important matter. Their main purpose for coming here was to ask the Great Sun sect to help them gather information. When Li Wushuang heard Nalin Yan's words, she thought that she wanted to do it with him. She smiled and said, Bao, there are so many people. Nalin Yan heard Li Wushuang's words and felt that it was a little strange. It wasn't until Li Wushuang gave her a smack on the face that she reacted. A trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. Men were indeed creatures that had their brains filled with sperm. Then, he half pushed and half backed into Li Wushuang's ear. Brother Wushuang, I hate you. They are talking about fellow Taoist Chu. Upon hearing Nalin Yan's words, Li Wushuang stopped her attack. After tidying her collar, she said to the Great Sun sect disciple on the ground, Have you thought it through? If you kowtow to me now, I can let bygones be bygones. Otherwise, after today, There will no longer be a Great Sun sect in this world. Hearing Li Wushuang's words, the Great Sun sect disciple spat at him. Looking at this adulterous couple lovey-dovey in front of him, he felt disgusted. At this moment, a clear voice sounded in his ear. Who is this person that dares to cause trouble in Daong Town? The sudden voice instantly attracted everyone's attention. Everyone looked over. A young man was walking towards them. It was Fu Tian, who had just come out of Xiao Changtian's courtyard. Wasn't this senior's disciple? When the Great Sun sect disciples who were lying on the ground saw Fu Tian, they were overjoyed as if they had seen their savior. Senior must have found out about the situation in our Great Sun town, and sent his disciples to come and save us. At the thought of this, the Great Sun sect disciple felt grateful towards Xiao Changtian. What was going on with Daong Town? They weren't strong, but everyone in the town was very arrogant. If he didn't conquer Daong Town today, how could he show off his masculinity in front of Sister Nailin? Li Wushuang was infuriated by the sudden voice. She waved her whip, and was about to hit Fu Tian. Chapter 263, Chapter 263. Fu Tian wants to rape me 1. Chapter 263. Fu Tian wants to rape me 1. On the other hand, Nailin Yin was stunned when she saw Fu Tian's figure. She could not help but say, Fu Tian. Hearing Nailin Yan's words, Li Wushuang stopped what she was doing, and said to Nailin Yan in her arms, Bao, do you know this person? Nailin Yan's eyes flashed when she heard Li Wushuang's name. Back at Incense Burner Peak, this Fu Tian had humiliated him. He did not expect to meet him here today. As long as he killed him, no one would know about his past. Nailin Yan was just about to speak to Li Wushuang when she heard Fu Tian's voice. Nailin Yan, I didn't expect you to still be the same as before. You really can't change your ways. What did you say? Li Wushuang shouted at Fu Tian. Nailin Yan even pretended to be sobbing as she snuggled into Li Wushuang's embrace, saying in a wrong tone, Brother Wushuang, do you still remember what one told you before? When one was young, my family was not good. There were always people who coveted me. That Fu Tian wanted to rape me before. Saying this, Nailin Yan began to sob in Li Wushuang's embrace. It was said that Fu Tian wanted to rape Nailin Yan, and cooperate with Nailin Yan's tears. At this moment, Li Wushuang was already filled with anger. She didn't care about whether it was real or fake. Immediately, he said to Nailin Yan, Bao, it's okay. Brother Wushuang will help you get justice. Hearing Li Wushuang's words, Nailin Yan's lips curled into a cold smile, as if she could already see what would happen to Fu Tian. Fu Tian, this time, I'm going to pay you back double for the humiliation you gave me. With this thought in mind, Nailin Yan stood to the side. She wanted to see how Fu Tian would be defeated by Li Wushuang. When Fu Tian saw Nailin Yan's acting skills, he could not help but give her a thumbs up in his heart. With his current strength, Nailin Yan's words earlier were naturally all taken in by his ears. What poor family background, would I want to rape you? Don't even mention having a little bit of contact with you. It's simply making up something out of nothing, okay? While Fu Tian was sighing in his heart, Li Wushuang's long whip also broke through the air. Fu Tian looked coldly at the whip that was coming at him. He raised his arm and grabbed the whip. What was going on? Li Wushuang was surprised to see Fu Tian grab the whip. In his perception, there was no aura on Fu Tian's body. He was just a mortal. No wonder he dared to come here alone. It turned out that he had hidden his aura. However, with my God King level, so what if I hide my aura? Li Wushuang snorted in her heart, and was about to pull the whip back to launch a second attack. However, before he could pull the whip back, Fu Tian pulled the whip in his hand. The whip in Li Wushuang's hand fell to the ground, and she almost fell. How was this possible? Nailin Yan, who was watching everything from the side, looked at Fu Tian in shock. You must be a God King as well. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. However, even if you are a God King, I will still kill you here today. After being humiliated by Fu Tian, Li Wushuang's furious voice rang out in the Great Sun sect. Original Young Divine Scripture, Great Sun Golden Wheel. The Zhen Yuan on Li Wushuang's body quickly condensed, and a strong aura spread out from him. Immediately, a gust of wind blew in the surroundings. The great Sun sect disciples could not help but cover their faces with their hands. Soon, the true qi on Li Wushuang's body formed a golden-red sun above him. The formation of the great solar golden will caused the entire space to tremble. Futian Dai. Li Wushuang pushed her hands in Futian's direction, and the great solar golden wheel rushed toward him with a world-destroying aura. When Neilin Yin saw Li Wushuang's majestic attack, the worry in her eyes disappeared. No matter how strong Futian was, he would probably be reduced to ashes under such an attack. At the thought of this, Neilin Yin had already begun to imagine how Futian would look when he begged for mercy. Futian looked at the great sun charging at him and smiled. Whether it was the long whip or the great sun, Futian's feet had always stood in place and had not moved at all. As the sun approached, Futian's right hand clenched into a fist that glowed with a golden light. Hee small tricks. Futian looked at the sun in disdain, and punched out with his right fist, colliding with the sun. Bang! The fists collided with the sun, and a loud bang was heard in Daong town. Smoke and dust flew into the air. What was the result? This was what everyone present thought. It seemed that Futian had already begged for mercy under Brother Wushuang's attack. Neilin Yin was just about to walk into the smoke and dust when she thought about it. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew past, instantly blowing away the surrounding dust. As the dust settled, two figures were revealed. He saw that Futian was still standing there without moving, his gaze somewhat mocking as he looked at Neilin Yin, who was running over. Li Wushuang had already fainted on the ground, covered in blood. As for the fire dragon, it had already been blown into the air by Futian's punch. When the great Sun sect disciples saw this scene, they were stunned for a moment before they shouted, "Invincible, invincible, invincible!" Not long ago, Li Wushuang had humiliated them. Now that they saw her half dead, the great Sun sect disciples felt much better. At this moment, Neilin Yan's eyes were filled with fear as she looked at Futian. Looking at Futian walking towards her, she instinctively said, "Don't come over, Futian. It's not what you think." It was Li Wushuang's idea to come to Daong town. "You know my strength." One was forced. Before Neilin Yin could finish her words, she was lifted up in the air by Futian. Towards Neilin Yan's acting skills, Futian already did not want to expose anything about her. He looked at her coldly and said slowly, "Neilin Yin, don't talk about this nonsense anymore. Just tell me directly, what are you doing in Great Sun Town?" Neilin Yan's heart was already filled with fear. Now that she was faced with Futian's cold words, how could she dare to hide anything? Just as she was about to speak, she saw Futian frown. His figure flashed, and he brought her to the other side. At the place where they were originally standing, a ray of light flashed past, leaving a huge pit on the ground. "So you have other accomplices," Futian said to Neilin Yin indifferently, before turning his gaze in another direction. They saw a fur-clad man gathering dark green true essence in his hand as he looked straight at them. Chu Yuanshan had been watching from the side. After the collision between Li Wushuang and Futian, he immediately walked over. Neilin Yin, who was in Futian's hands, looked at Chu Yuanshan, who was standing at the side. It was as if she had grabbed onto a life-saving straw and shouted at Chu Yuanshan, "Fellow Taoist Chu, save me." Chapter 264, Chapter 264, Making the Iron Cage 1. Chapter 264, Making the Iron Cage 1. Neilin Yin also knew that Chu Yuanshan's strength was above Li Wushuang's. If he were to make a move, he might be able to save her. After Chu Yuanshan heard Neilin Yan's words, he did not act rashly. Although Li Wushuang was a half-baked god king, she was still a god king. This person was able to defeat Li Wushuang, so he must be at least a god king. Chu Yuanshan was not confident that he could defeat him. Neilin Yin saw that after Chu Yuanshan heard her cry for help, he stood still for a long time without moving. She could not help but say again, "Fellow Taoist Chu, As long as you save me, I can tell you more information. When Chu Yuanshan heard Nailin Yan's words, his expression was also uncertain. At the same time, he began to calculate in his heart. This woman actually had other information that she had not told him. As such, in order to know more about the reincarnation of the Lord of the Divine Court, he had no choice but to make a move. The fighting spirit on Chu Yuanshan's body was quickly detected by Fu Tian. With a flash, he appeared in front of Chu Yuanshan. What a fast speed! Chu Yuanshan was shocked and was about to react. A golden fist enlarged in his pupils. Bang! Fu Tian punched Chu Yuanshan in the face, sending him flying. Along the way, they even bumped into a few stalls in Daong Town. In the end, they also fell to the ground half dead. After sending Chu Yuanshan flying with a casual punch, Fu Tian said to Nailin Yan in his hand, Nailin Yan, this is your last chance. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. Tell me, what are you doing in Daong Town? Her last hope had been shattered by Fu Tian. Nailin Yan had already fainted from fright. Seeing Nailin Yan's unconscious appearance, Fu Tian was also somewhat speechless for a moment. No way, he fainted so quickly. He muttered to himself, and threw Nailin Yan onto the ground. Following that, a piece of parchment fell from Nailin Yan's body. After picking up the parchment on the ground, Fu Tian saw the passion fruit displayed on it. Isn't this the passion fruit that Master asked junior sister Ruomiao to find? One can bring it back for junior sister Ruomiao. After keeping the parchment, he didn't care if Li Wushuang and the other two were dead or alive. He continued to walk towards the Great Sun Sect. In Xiao Changtian's courtyard, Xiao Changtian was currently in the storeroom. After fiddling with it for a while, Xiao Changtian looked at the small wooden rack in front of him with satisfaction. As long as Fu Tian borrowed the flame pearl from the Great Sun Jinren and placed it inside, a self-made small sun would be completed. Coming out of the storage room, Xiao Changtian saw the red and yellow colors in the sky. Looking at the red and yellow scene, Xiao Changtian's eyes flashed with nostalgia. This red and yellow scene, is it the fireworks that one often set off in my previous life? He did not expect that the people of the immortal cultivation world also liked to set off fireworks. Moreover, the special effects of these fireworks were comparable to those he had played in his previous life. Then, he walked into his room and took out a wooden box from under his bed. After opening it slowly, it was filled with fireworks that he had brought from his previous life. It just so happened that he hadn't let off fireworks in a long time. Why don't he play with Jiu and the others tonight? Xiao Changtian said in his heart. Then he closed the wooden box and walked out of the room. Seeing some steel outside the door, he slapped his forehead. Only then did he remember that he planned to use the steel to make an iron cage. The old dirty ghost always brought Rong Rong running around, and in the yard he always fought with the old hen in the chicken coop, and also refused to change after repeated admonishment. It was really hard to be at ease. He had to make an iron cage just in case. If he ran out again, he would definitely lock it up. Otherwise, if he was caught and made into soup one day, wouldn't his path to invincibility be ruined? He had received special training from the system in his refining skills, so it was not a problem for him to break an iron cage. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian picked up the iron hammer beside him and sat on the steps to make the iron cage. Bang! 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 Xiao Changtian waved the iron hammer in his hand, and a cage appeared in his hand. The animals in the yard saw this scene as expected. The fat Rong Rong in the corner heard the sound of Xiao Changtian's hammer striking down. Her heart filled with fear, saying to the black tortoise on her head, "Boss, what do you think Master is doing? Is he making an iron cage to lock us up?" Black Tortoise looked at the gradually forming iron cage in Xiao Changtian's hands. His eyes also filled with fear, but he still said to the fat Rong Rong, "Fatty, don't panic. If you want to lock them up until they die." After saying that, Black Tortoise retracted its head and limbs into its turtle shell. After the fat Rong Rong heard Black Tortoise's words, she felt that it made sense, but she still shrank into a corner and shivered. The other animals were the same. Looking at the metal cage that had already formed in Xiao Changtian's hands, they felt a chill in their hearts. Bang! With the last strike, the iron cage in Xiao Changtian's hand was completed. He lifted the iron cage from the ground and flipped it a few times. After ensuring that there were no holes, he placed it aside. At this moment, Futian had also returned from the Great Sun sect. He was holding the flame pearl that he had borrowed from the Great Sun Immortal. He handed the fire bead to Xiao Changtian and saw the iron cage on the ground. He couldn't help but ask, "Master, this is?" In Futian's eyes, the iron cage was attached with the laws of heaven and earth. If they were locked up, no one would be able to escape. "Oh, you're talking about this iron cage? I just made this. The old dirty ghost and the others are too worrisome," Xiao Changtian said to Futian, as he placed the flame pearl on the wooden shelf that he had just made. Xiao Changtian turned the small handle on his wooden shelf after the flame bead was put in. Instantly, a gust of hot wind blew out from the wooden frame. With this thing and the stove at home, there was nothing to worry about this winter. Xiao Changtian looked at little son, who had completed his task, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. On the side, Black Tortoise and the fat Rongrong heard the conversation between Xiao Changtian and Futian, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. "Boss, did you hear that? Master seemed to have said that the iron cage was prepared for you." After hearing Xiao Changtian's words, the Black Tortoise did not stick out its limbs or head. He did not respond to Fatty's words. After everything was done, Xiao Changtian looked at the sky. It seemed to be dinner time. He said to Futian, "Futian, pack up and call the others over for dinner." Chapter 265. Chapter 265. Setting off fireworks, it's so excited 1. Chapter 265. Setting off fireworks, it's so excited 1. Xiao Changtian's courtyard. Xiao Changtian and his disciples were sitting around the dining table in the courtyard, eating and drinking. They were talking and laughing. "How many times have one told you? You have to hold the chopsticks like this, understand?" Xiao Changtian looked at Di Wuzheng, who was holding a pair of chopsticks in each hand, and couldn't help but say, "Master, these 2 chopsticks are too heavy. One can't carry them with one hand." Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, Xiao Changtian couldn't help but curse. "I think you're just playing around and won't learn properly. You can't find a better excuse." After dinner, Xiao Changtian picked up a wooden box and said to the others, "If you want to play, you can have fun today." Hearing Xiao Changtian's words and seeing him take out a wooden box, everyone was curious. Xiao Changtian slowly opened the wooden box in his hand, and everyone saw the fireworks inside. Di Wuzheng and the others had never seen fireworks before. He asked Xiao Changtian, "Master, what is this?" Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, Xiao Changtian was also a little stunned. He couldn't help but say, "These are fireworks. Haven't you seen them before?" "Fireworks?" Di Wuzheng looked into the wooden box several times and shook his head. Xiao Changtian looked at Di Wuzheng and suddenly understood. The fireworks that he brought in his previous life were for mortals to play with, while the people in the cultivation world were mainly immortal cultivators. He was sure that those cultivators had to use a certain method to make fireworks, but they could only use them for themselves. Although this disciple of his had some talent, he was not an immortal cultivator after all. Clearly, he had not reached the level where he could come into contact with fireworks. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian saw the puzzled expressions of the others, and was even more certain of his guess. After taking out a firework from the wooden box, Xiao Changtian said to everyone, "This is something I used to play with. I'll show you. Watch carefully. It's very fun." Hearing that this was something Xiao Changtian used to play with, everyone stared at him. They also wanted to know what Xiao Changtian used to play with. After lighting the fuse, Xiao Changtian pointed it at the sky. With a swoosh, a ray of light flew out from Xiao Changtian's hand. When it reached mid-air, it exploded and turned into colorful lights. What kind of weapon was this? Everyone looked at Xiao Changtian in shock. Not only them, But also the people who were carrying bricks in the courtyard had sensed the movement coming from Xiao Changtian. Just a moment ago, they heard a swoosh and felt a violent energy fluctuation. Then, a loud noise came from the sky, and a terrifying energy spread in the air. They had no doubt that if this energy exploded, they would die here today. Xiao Changtian looked at everyone's surprised expressions and smiled. He said to Di Wuzheng, "Di Wuzheng, why don't you try?" "Master, can I?" Di Wuzheng heard Xiao Changtian calling him and asked in panic. He now understood what his master had said about the things he used to play with. This was clearly a canon in the human world. If he had not been careless and not controlled it well, what would he have done if he had destroyed his master's courtyard? Xiao Changtian saw Di Wuzheng's surprised and scared look, so he waved at him and said slowly, "It's all right." When he first came into contact with fireworks, he was also surprised and afraid of them. However, after playing a few more times, he got used to it. After hearing Xiao Changtian's words, Di Wuzheng walked to Xiao Changtian in shock. He took out a firework from the wooden box and lit the fuse with Xiao Changtian's help. With the same whoosh, Di Wuzheng felt that more than half of his true essence was sucked away by the fireworks in his hand. Then the light flew into the air and exploded into five-colored light. Xiao Changtian smiled when he saw Di Wu running back to the crowd after setting off the fireworks. Di Wuzheng's current appearance was similar to the first time he came into contact with fireworks. After Di Wuzheng returned to the crowd, Wang Miaoshu and the others also asked him, "Junior brother, how is Master's thing? How do you feel after using it?" Hearing what Fu Tian and the others said, Di Wuzheng also took a few breaths and said to them, "The fireworks in Master's hands are fun, but they consume a little true essence. Every time one shoot them, I feel that these fireworks drain a lot of true essence from my body. However, one feel that no one in the divine realm can withstand the might of these fireworks." Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, the others nodded in agreement. After Di Wuzheng left, Xiao Changtian said to the crowd, "Is there anyone else who wants to try?" At this moment, Di Tian walked over and spoke to Xiao Changtian. "Senior, can I try it?" After Di Wuzheng and Xiao Changtian's demonstration, Di Tian could already feel how extraordinary these fireworks were. If he could keep one with him and use it for self-defense, he would have another trump card when he encountered the experts of the divine world, who were hunting him down in the future. At this moment, Xiao Changtian's gaze was on his disciple. After he heard Di Tian's words, he turned his head and saw Di Tian beside him. "Of course you can." Xiao Changtian laughed. After that, he took out a firework from a wooden box and passed it to Di Tian. Just like Di Wuzheng, Di Tian was also amazed by the miraculous effects of the fireworks after he felt the fire. Then, Xiao Changtian took out all the fireworks from the wooden box and said to the crowd, "Don't just stand there. Each of you can take one and play with it." As he spoke, Xiao Changtian threw one to each of them. Fu Tian and the others looked at the fireworks in their hands, and their eyes were filled with gratitude. This was the supreme opportunity that their master had given them. With these fireworks, they would have another way to save their lives when they went out in the future. Although they had yet to encounter anyone who could threaten them, it was always better to be prepared. Then Fu Tian and the others said to Xiao Changtian, "Thank you, Master." At this moment, all the cultivators within 100 miles of the Great Sun sect were trembling. Just a moment ago, they felt a terrifying energy fluctuation coming from the sky above Daong Town. It was as if there were peerless experts fighting in the sky. Some of the cultivators who wanted to go over to investigate were blasted down by a powerful aura before they could get close. They fell to the ground, not knowing whether they were dead or alive. For a time, all the Xiaxianists hid in their nests and activated the sect protection array, afraid that they would be affected if they were not careful. Chapter 266. Chapter 266:1 Found the Lord of the Divine Court. 1. Chapter 266:1 Found the Lord of the Divine Court. 1. In the sky above Daong Town, Li Wushuang, Nailin Yan, and Chu Yuanshan were all in the air, their faces covered in dust and their clothes in a mess. After waking up in Great Sun Town, Nailin Yan immediately urged Li Wushuang and Chu Yuanshan to leave. She was afraid that Futian would find out that they were still alive and chase after them. Nailin Yan was now somewhat traumatized by Futian. Without needing Nailin Yan Duo to say anything, Chu Yuanshan and Li Wushuang wanted to leave Great Sun Town as soon as possible. Chu Yuanshan started to doubt his life. He had been beaten up by people twice when he came to Daong Town. If he had not seen the Iron Eaters, he would have suspected that he had not come to the Tianyuan continent. Bang! 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 As the three of them flew in the air, they heard a series of loud sounds coming from ahead. Then a violent wind with intense energy fluctuations blew over. The three of them used their hands to block their faces. Then they felt the blood in their bodies churn. After being blown back by the strong wind, the three of them clutched their chests and looked forward in shock. Who was fighting? Looking at this aura, his cultivation was more than one level higher than theirs. Before they could figure it out, a colorful light exploded in front of them, and an even stronger energy wave swept towards them. Dodge! Chu Yuanshan shouted at Li Wushuang and the others before flying down. Bang! Although Chu Yuanshan reacted in time, the energy wave still passed through their bodies. The three of them spat out a mouthful of blood, and their bodies fell like kites with broken strings. At this moment, in the outer area of Xiao Chongtian's courtyard, Di Tian stared at the extinguished fireworks in his hands, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. He didn't know what kind of ability was needed to make such a thing from Ghost Valley. Just one shot of these fireworks was enough to kill a godly emperor. If so many cannons were fired in succession, any faction would probably be reduced to ashes. As he thought of this in his heart, Di Tian's respect for Xiao Chongtian grew even more. At this moment, Chu Yuanshan, Li Wushuang and Nailin Yan, who had fallen to the ground, were all covered in blood. It was obvious that they had suffered serious internal injuries from the energy fluctuation just now. Li Wushuang spat out a mouthful of blood and burst into laughter. I found it, ha ha. When Chu Yuanshan and Nailin Yan saw Li Wushuang's expression, they exchanged glances and understood the meaning in each other's eyes. Could it be that the energy fluctuations just now had damaged Li Wushuang's brain? Then, Li Wushuang excitedly grabbed Nailin Yan's hand and said to her, Treasure, I found it. What did you find? Nailin Yan said in horror, when she saw the excitement on Li Wushuang's face. I've found the location of the Lord of the Divine Court. As she spoke, Li Wushuang took out a jade plate from her bosom. This was one of his personal treasures. It could be used to track the aura of immortal cultivators. When he was squatting in the mystic Jade Divine Hall, he had secretly recorded the aura of the Lord of the Divine Court. In the energy fluctuation just now, he felt the fluctuation coming from his jade plate. It was obvious that the aura of the Lord of the Divine Court had appeared. Chu Yuanshan's eyes lit up when he heard Li Wushuang's words. He said to Li Wushuang, Have you found the Lord of the Divine Court? Where is he now? After Chu Yuanshan finished speaking, Nailin Yan also shot Li Wushuang a questioning look. At this time, Li Wushuang quickly gathered her true qi and poured it into the jade plate. The jade plates in front of the three of them lit up. After a flash, Li Wushuang opened her eyes. Pointing upwards, he said to Nailin Yan and Chu Yuanshan, Divine world, celestial continent amongst the clouds. Hearing that it was after the divine realm, and not after Daong Town, Chu Yuanshan heaved a sigh of relief. He really did not want to stay in Daong Town for too long. Not only had they been beaten up by people twice, but the energy fluctuation they had just encountered was also something that only the rumored Forbidden Land would appear in. Chu Yuanshan didn't want the Iron Eater to be left unsaved, and he himself to die here. With this thought in mind, Chu Yuanshan said to Li Wushuang and the others, Then let's hurry over. After hearing Chu Yuanshan's words, Li Wushuang and Nailin Yan nodded. Nailin Yan then said, Let's leave from the other side. This way. Recalling the energy undulations earlier, Nailin Yen, and the others all felt lingering fear. After looking at each other, the three of them walked to the other side in unison, not even daring to fly. There was no other way. If the energy fluctuation from the previous conflagration happened again, they might have to stay here forever. After Li Wushuang and the others left, Di Tian, who was in Xiao Changtian's courtyard, also sensed something and turned his gaze over. Just now he felt like he was being spied on. Could it be that his other clones had found this place? Di Tian mumbled in his heart. He and his clone could sense each other. As long as they were close enough, they could sense each other's existence. After thinking for a while, Di Tian shook his head. He had a method that was unique to the divine court to isolate himself from the probing. Even if it was his clone, it should not be easy for him to find him. Then he saw the fireworks in his hand. When these fireworks were released, he needed to inject his true essence into them. Could it be that the experts of the divine realm sensed his aura from the explosion of the fireworks? After thinking about it for a while, Di Tian himself didn't dare to be sure. He decided not to think about it, and continued to work. As long as he stayed in Senior's courtyard and did not go out, even if the experts of the divine realm came, they could not do anything to him. At the same time in the courtyard, Fu Tian had also found Lin Ruomiao, and handed her the blueprint that had fallen from Nailin Yan's body. Senior sister, this is the information about the passion fruit that Master asked you to find. One accidentally found it on the street today. I wonder if it will be of any help to you. When Lin Ruomiao heard the news of the passion fruit, she quickly took the parchment from Fu Tian's hands. After seeing the information marked on it, his face was filled with joy. He said excitedly to Fu Tian, "Junior brother, I was just worrying about where to find the passion fruit. I didn't expect you to help senior sister a lot. Thank you." She had been asking around about the passion fruit recently, but there was no information about it. She was troubled by this matter. After all, if she failed to complete Xiao Changtian's mission, Xiao Changtian would be very disappointed in her. At that time, how could he avenge his family? At this moment, the news of the passion fruit given by Fu Tian was like timely rain to her. After hearing Lin Ruomiao's words, Fu Tian scratched the back of his head and said with a smile, "Senior sister, there's no need." Chapter 267. Chapter 267. I got it, I don't need it 1. Chapter 267. I got it, I don't need it 1. In a small town in the celestial continent amongst clouds. In the sky above the small town, the figures of immortal cultivators constantly flew past. There were even some who came in groups on spirit ships. At this moment, the streets were bustling with people, and there were a lot of customers gathered in front of the stalls and shops. Business was very hot. Lin Ruomiao was walking on the streets of the small town. Her long hair was fluttering in the wind, and she was quiet and sweet. She was wearing a long white dress, and there was a dagger at her waist. Looking at the parchment in her hand, Lin Ruomiao's gaze was fixed on a mountain range in front of her. According to the instructions on the map, the location of the passion fruit should be in front. Lin Ruomiao muttered. Following that, the interspatial ring on her hand flashed with a silver light as she kept the parchment. Stop squeezing, I was here first." "Who said that?" "I was here first." H11. A loud noise came from the front and attracted Lin Ruomiao's attention. He saw a large group of cultivators gathered in front of a shop called the Clear Wind Sect. They were all fighting to squeeze into the Clear Wind Sect. The number of people queuing up almost blocked the main street. With so many cultivators blocking her path, Lin Ruomiao frowned slightly and wanted to go around them. At this moment, an old man dressed in beast clothing walked up to Lin Ruomiao from a stall at the side. He pointed at the blueprint on the stall and said to her, "Miss, looking at your attire, you are also going to the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range to search for treasures, right? Do you want a map?" The old man stopped in front of the Clear Breeze sect when he saw Lin Ruomiao holding a blueprint. Combined with the dagger at her waist, it was obvious that she was here to find a sacred object. just like the immortal cultivators who had come to Coiling Dragon Town in the past few days. As he spoke, the old man patted his chest. Based on my many years of experience in going in and out of the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, I dare say that no one in Coiling Dragon Town has a more detailed map than me. After ruthlessly slaughtering a few young cultivators, the old man saw the hairpin on Lin Ruomiao's head and her tender face. No matter how he looked at it, it was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. When Lin Ruomiao heard this old man's words, she casually glanced at him. With her eyesight, how could she not see that this old man's beast skin was taken from a demonic beast that wasn't even at the mid-level deity stage? With such strength, even if he had been to the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, what good map could he draw? Moreover, the parchment in his interspatial ring also contained complete information about the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. There was no need for it at all. However, the old man's mention of a holy object piqued Lin Ruomiao's interest. Could it be the passion fruit that she was looking for? There was also this group of people in front of him. Although their cultivation levels were not very high, if they were all here for the passion fruit, it would be a problem. With that thought in mind, Lin Miao said coldly to the old man, "A sacred object." When the old man saw Lin Ruomiao's puzzled expression, and how she didn't even know about the sacred artifact, he was even more delighted. Just as he had guessed, this little girl was a hothead, and she came from a rich family. After seeing how lively it was, he wanted to come over and take a look. With this thought in mind, the old man wore a thick smile on his face as he slowly said to Lin Ruomiao, "Miss, you don't know, right? A sacred item has recently appeared in the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. It's said to be a spirit medicine that can help a god king break through." Lin Ruomiao nodded her head symbolically when she heard the old man's words, and did not reply. What was going on? In the old man's expectations, after he said that it was a sacred object that could help godly kings break through, this little girl should be very shocked. He couldn't help but glance at Lin Ruomiao, only to find that she didn't have any aura. It turned out that he was a small cultivator whose aura could not even be sensed. No wonder he had no idea what a god king was. After thinking it through in his heart, the old man rolled his eyes and continued to speak to Lin Ruomiao. "You won't understand even if I say too much. Let's put it this way. This sacred item can help you break through a few major realms." Sensing the old man's gaze and the pile of nonsense, Lin Ruomiao waved her hand at him and said coldly, "What does this sacred object look like?" Seeing Lin Ruomiao speak and ask him about the sacred artifact, the old man was delighted. As expected, no one was not interested in raising their cultivation level. Then, he picked up the booth's drawing and pointed at a point on it, saying to Lin Ruomiao, "This sacred item is called the passion fruit. It's said to be a rare item that only appears once in 100 years. It was indeed passion fruit." After hearing the old man's words, Lin Ruomiao crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked around at the unusually lively town. It seemed that these people were here for the passion fruit. The old man in animal skin held the blueprint in his hand and gave an endless speech to Lin Ruomiao. His mouth was also a little dry. When he saw Lin Ruomiao looking in the direction of the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, he said to her, "Miss, how about it? As long as you buy this blueprint of mine, I guarantee that you will find this sacred artifact before anyone else." After talking for so long, this little girl was probably already extremely excited about this Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. After all, who could resist the temptation of becoming stronger? The expected huge sum of money did not arrive. Instead, Lin Ruomiao's faint voice entered her ears. "Okay, I know. I don't need it." Puff. Hearing Lin Ruomiao's words, the old man was so furious that he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He scratched his ears to make sure that he didn't have any problems with his hearing. Just as he was about to say something to Lin Ruomiao, a giggling voice sounded. "Old man, I want the blueprint in your hand." As the voice rang out, the gazes of everyone on the street were immediately attracted. Isn't this the Clear Wind Saint Sun?" "It's the Clear Wind Saint Sun. I didn't expect him to come here personally. He must be here to investigate the Clearwind sect. How is that possible? I heard that this Clearwind saint's son has always been stubborn. Although he's a saint's son, he often causes trouble for the sect. H11. Feeling the sensation of being the center of attention, the Clearwind saint's son threw a universe bag to the old man and gave him a look. After the old man received the Qianquan bag, he saw the look in Clearwind saint's son's eyes and quickly retreated to the side. After the fur-clad old man left, the Clearwind saint's son walked up to Lin Ruomiao with a smile. He held the blueprint and said to her with a smile, "Miss, I believe that you are also going to the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Please kindly accept this map." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.